If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Special thank you to Landmark Coffee Roasters, a sponsor for this podcast. If you haven't tasted their coffee, you got to go check it out. Some of the best beans in Southern California. LandmarkRoasters.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Rinaldo, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
You are one of the brothers. You are a part of / leading the charge in a group text we call the Investment Bros. I've known you for 20 years, and you are one of the good brothers to always encourage me and pray for me. You have been at firefighting for the last 20 years, and but you developed a knack for everything investing, finance, crypto over the last few years. You've been doing it for a while, but you were just recently invited to speak at a conference in Florida. Pretty cool opportunity. Looking at cryptocurrency and how to look at it from a Christian worldview. You love to do everything extreme sports. And I mean, you're always down for the adventure. It's like anything we're going to do, Ryan's like down to do it. Like, dude, you want to go jump off a mountain? Let's do it. You want to go snowboard down the craziest? Let's do it. You want to, he's just ready to go. You have been a Bible knowledge guy in the Brotherhood for the last 2 decades. And are always willing to go to the end of the earth to find the truth with the brothers. And I love it. And we almost have the same birthday.
Almost, a few days off.
We are 3 days apart. Is that right?
Correct.
Are you the 12th?
I'm the 12th. You're the 9th.
Yes, I'm the 9th. Yeah. So we are 3 days apart on the year 1982. Yep. So we're actually 3 days apart. Pretty crazy. So we almost have the same birthday. You were there for me on the day my brother passed, and you helped me. You were there for me. You encouraged me through this church plant here in LA, and we have made some amazing investments together and made some amazing money together, and we have lost a lot of money together and some very terrible investments. You are married with 2 kids. Shout out to Shannon. Thanks for letting Ryan come out and play. And dude, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Happy to have you on. I had to have Ryan Rinaldo on because, again, a brother I've known for a long time. I don't even know how many conversations we've had, hundreds, thousands, and they're still going on right now, current conversations, but we go way back. Do you actually remember the first time that we met? Do you remember when and where all that happened?
I know that it was at Harvest,
okay.
But I don't remember if it was a gathering because I remember going to the coffee shop that you guys talked about it at one of the brothers' previous interviews. I don't remember the name of it.
Is it the coffee shop across from Alberto's, or is it the coffee shop over off Arlington? And
you'd sit outside on the grass, I believe it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's either Java Bliss or it was not Coffee Depot. Oh no, I forgot the name of it. It's the one over off of Arlington and Van Buren, which I think is still there. Indiana and Van Buren, somewhere around there. But yeah, we had Bible study going on in the coffee shop. So there, you came to the Bible study.
Yeah, I was invited by, of all people, I'd somehow met Tree, our mutual friend.
Really?
Tree. Yeah. And
yeah.
Just invited. Oh yeah, we have a big group that hangs out at Harvest, so you should come by. So I came to the Bible study and met you and Jason and all the guys there, and that was the first time I believe that I met you. I don't know if you remember anything different, but
were you walking with the Lord at that time, or where was your walk with the Lord?
My walk was, I would say no.
Yeah. I knew about the Lord?
I knew about the Lord,
yeah.
Yes, because my parents, my mom definitely, I grew up hearing, right, the Bible is the final word of God.
Right.
But I came out of a big mess of watching from TBN to, so the Benny Hinn's and all that, to went to a Foursquare, then went to a First Assemblies, and so it was a very charismatic background, and walked down the aisle probably 1,000 times like everyone else, and just, okay, well, I'm repenting now, and then live how I want the rest of the time.
Right.
And yeah, I got introduced to Calvary, was there for a while, then made my way down to Harvest, and from there, that's when I met all the brothers, and it was there meeting the brothers that was really challenged with the thinking and Reformed theology of like, well, you can't just choose when you want to repent.
Right.
Like, because if you think you can do that, 1 Timothy 2:24 says, a servant of the Lord must be kind, patient, gentle, able to correct his opponent, able to teach, that if perhaps God would grant him repentance leading to a knowledge of the truth. And it was that moment where I was like, man, so what do you mean? Like, I can't just live how I want during the weekday and come out on a Sunday. And that was a big change of that direction of life, of just really feeling I can do what I want versus no, you can't do what you want. And that was at Harvest.
So you're basically understanding of repentance like showed up in that group of brothers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And we're probably what, 20, 21, 22, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you guys have heard me talk about the brothers on here many times, but this is a group of like, I don't know, they're like 15 guys / 20 guys / 30 guys. I mean, it's grown and shrunk over the years, but the brothers were a tight group of guys that ran together and were constantly challenging each other on walking with God, really on our position of Scripture. And it's fun to look at the spectrum even of the positions of the brothers in accordance with the Scriptures, because we would be debating all of these topics, trying to pull each other into these different circles, from debating Reformed theology to apologetics to eschatology to all kinds of positions on the Bible. I mean, we were going up, down, left, right, just challenging. But what I loved about it is not only was it a theological challenge and a brain exercise of looking at Scripture, we were also looking for sanctification. We were on each other trying to make sure we were all walking with the Lord. And so you folded in, came into the coffee shop, and then was the well going on at that time then?
The well was, yes.
Yeah. So this college ministry?
Yep.
And then, so Ryan, yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, all the guys were around during that time, but that was kind of our first step into deep Christianity with the brothers there at Harvest, where we had really committed our lives to the Lord. Interesting is you said you grew up Pentecostal, Benny Hinn, Foursquare Church, because those are all three very common things in my life. Grew up Pentecostal. Benny Hinn had an influence on my grandma and on somebody gave me a book written by Benny Hinn, like about the Holy Spirit, you know. I remember reading it and somebody like challenged me about it. And a Bible study, like, "What are you reading?" I'm like, "I don't know. Somebody gave it to me on the Holy Spirit. I thought it was
swing
great."
Your coat around.
Yeah, exactly. Had to get knocked over in the Spirit, you know. Sorry to all you Pentecostals out there. We grew up in it. I saw it all, you know. But and also went forward to be prayed for. Do you remember the moment when you actually woke up, or like when you feel that you discovered grace for the first time, or do you remember the first time you sensed, I am fully committing my life to the Lord, or I am, stepping deeply to start walking with Him?
Yeah, and I would say that there's been different moments in which different things have had those similar moments, and it has really amplified the walk from those moments. The first one was definitely coming in, was there, and when it was sparked by when John MacArthur came and spoke.
I remember.
At the conference. I don't remember the name of the conference, but
it was called Preach the Word Conference.
Correct, yeah, Preach the Word. And he was speaking on a book that he was working on called Doulos. Yeah. And so he just dropped that whole bomb on all of us. I remember all of us brothers just kind of, what was that? Like, and we were just amazed at that. And that really sparked a really good conversation. And I remember we were at In-N-Out, and it was, I believe it was me, Patrick, and Donnie sitting at the In-N-Out, and they were both chatting about the doctrines of grace aspect and election. And they're talking, and I'm just sitting there as an observer, and I would ask the question, well, what about this? And then Patrick would turn and just answer a simple question. And I'd sit and think about it as they're continuing to talk, and then I'd ask another question. He would do the same. Well, I went home, and then, because before you were always taught, oh, stay away from just doctrines of grace or Calvinism or anything like that. Stay away from that.
Sure. Yeah, this was a cuss word because what had happened, it was a cuss word in our movement in Calvary. It probably still is to this day. Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know if I said that right. All you Calvary guys.
There's a mix.
Yeah, Calvinism is like a cuss word because what happens is many of those who step into Calvinism and or Reformed theology and did so back then, what do they call it? The cage stage?
Cage stage. Yeah, it was coined by R.C. Sproul, saying if you learn about this, you need to be caged for at least 3 years to learn about it first so you can become humbled and then go out and share.
Right, because what happens is these guys like absorb a little bit of information about John Calvin and then the 5 points, and then before you know it, they're like trying to burn down the inside of their church, And it's like, dude, don't do that. Like, what are you doing? And so and even MacArthur and John Piper and all of these reform guys were kind of trying to rebuke the next generation. Say, stop doing that. Stop burning down your pastors. Stop burning down people. So, anyways, yeah, it's regardless of where you stand in Reformed theology and however many points you hold to, and what your position is, how much you believe God is sovereign, how much you hold to the responsibility of man. Sadly, it was taboo in that day. So you're having secret conversation in and out with Pat and with Donnie.
Yep.
And they're dropping bombs on you.
Yeah, he's just sharing because they're just chatting between the two of them, and I'm just asking questions. And I just remember the phrase that my mom always used to say is that the Bible has the final say. And so I just went home after that night, and for literally the next 8 months, I looked up any verse I could find that had to do with the word chosen, election, foreknowledge, just anything, any of those words in the Bible. I found every single one and went through them and over and over and over. And I was really wrestling through it. And then I thought, oh, well, I wonder what Charles Spurgeon thinks. Everyone, even Calvary Chapel loves Charles Spurgeon.
Yeah.
What does he say about it? So I printed out, I think it was like 20 or 25 sermons.
Wow.
I physically printed them out.
Wow.
That he did on all of those different...
This is classic Ryan, by the way.
On all of those different topics. And I just remember I was probably through number 10 of going through. And just the way he was presenting it, all that was really making sense. And I remember being at the fire department, and I was in my own room, just, again, studying, and going through the same verses that I had gone through before, and it just all hit me like a ton of bricks of, so that's how I'm saved. And not just even in just an election standpoint, but just the salvation, and the Lord is the one who came in and actually is wanting to pull me out of darkness into light. And it was that, and I remember just pausing from my reading and actually getting on the floor in my room in the fire station and worshiping the Lord. And it just truly humbled me of a sense of grace. Like I knew I didn't deserve anything. And so that really changed my perspective. That then the danger was going over the next several years is then you have to be careful not to go the other side where it's like, man, now you got this grace.
Sure.
You have law, and people are sitting under the law of like, I have to do everything to earn my salvation, and it's a burden. But then you can go the other way and be like, oh, well, the grace of God. And it's like, well, and then now I'm saved, and I can't lose my salvation, so I can just
live however I want.
So then you're not really so focused, and that's where I had to come back to, and years later, really coming into understanding of the level of that, the hand that God has in it, but his hand produces the sanctification in which we then pursue our right living that matches up with our standing of justification. And so it was that additional realization that then kind of centered and was very helpful in that. But that came much later. So there was much of my life that was, trying to get in balance.
I noticed a couple things in your story is that, first, God saved you from the fire in a firehouse.
100%, yeah.
Crazy, man.
Right?
A firefighter on his knees in the firehouse. The rest of the guys didn't know, but you were being resurrected in that moment, in that room. I mean, that's crazy. I love it. Second thing is you pointed out Spurgeon, who the reason why he's kind of an anomaly is because he was kind of the evangelist in the 1800s who produced a church of like 7,000 people there in London, Metropolitan Tabernacle. And I remember a fire broke out and sadly caused a lot of problems, or somebody yelled fire and it caused a stampede. Somebody died. There was no fire. Caused a lot of depression in his life. But he was the evangelist who hailed the sovereignty of God and really anchored himself in Reformed theology. And so you have this anomaly, and that's why the world of I don't know if moderate is the right, but it's like the world of those who have a really hard time processing the sovereignty of God or God being in control of all things. They love the Spurgeon type because he has a way of still calling the responsibility of man in the church, and he has a way with words in doing so, but then anchors everything back into the sovereignty of God. And so that was Spurgeon is I don't know. He's a great introduction, into the world of Reformed theology, and obviously the Prince of Preachers. I mean, he's masterful. One of the things you pointed out is you said your mom kept pointing you back to the Word of God, and you said a phrase: "The Word of God is true."
Yeah, Scripture is the final authority. She would say Scripture. She would say the Bible. The Bible is the final authority.
Did your mom have a heavy influence in your life? Regarding God or regarding the Bible? Did you feel like since you were young, I mean, was she the great influence in your life? Is it your dad as well? They come from both?
No, my dad wasn't a believer till later in life, but my mom for sure in the aspect, and she came from that charismatic side. So the theology, the strength of the theological standpoint wasn't there, but what her biggest impact for me, which is what I loved the most, is she said, well, Scripture is the final authority. It doesn't matter what any pastor says. You have to go to the Bible. So even if her theology was off, or I was in a private school that she wanted me in a private school so that way I could be around Christian stuff. And even though their theology was off, she still instilled the seed there that said the Bible is the final authority. Like that is the root. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter what anyone else says. So check whatever you hear against that.
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
You look back on that, God chose to place you in that family with that mom in that city in this time and put that in her heart to say that into your life, which produces this guy who literally, I mean, it's part of your life. I mean, it's kind of almost like a thesis of your life. Like the Scripture is the final, and like I'm not getting away from that. And I kind of don't care. And if you don't know, in the circle of the brothers, Ryan is like this behind the scenes too. He's just like, what does the Bible say? What does the Bible say? What does the Bible say? So we're like constantly all going back to the Word of God, which probably knits us all of us together because we all love that and we all need that. And it's interesting how it's come into our lives from so many different angles. So, wow, you woke up to the Lord in the firehouse and obviously took deeper steps into grace along your journey, different seasons where your eyes are open, the scales fall off. Your eyes are open again, the scales fall off. And this process of sanctification is so awesome. Just watching how the Lord deals with us and puts up with us, but keeps bringing us back to Him. You stepped into firefighting at what age? I
want to say 20.
Yeah.
20 or 21.
Where'd you grow up?
In Victorville.
Victorville.
Yeah.
And high school?
Up there, yeah.
Okay. And then you stepped into the fire academy, you said around 19, 20 years old?
Yeah, about 18, right after high school. So my sister met her now husband, whose name is also Ryan. He was in the fire department, and he brought me for a ride along. And first thing was they just kind of let me come along, and the next thing I know, they gave me some gear. And
are you just sitting? You're just sitting in the truck. You put the headphones on, the whole thing.
Yeah.
They let you flip the sirens.
Yeah. I was there for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And so I just got to experience the whole thing. They burnt down a building, like they were doing a big training burn in a real house. And so got to take full part and all that. And I was just like, man, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So then I went to school, learned firefighting, and came out of that. And yeah.
You've been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah. I started on a hotshot crew, going throughout the United States, just doing all the wildland fires. So I did that for a couple of years first.
What states did you hit?
Let's see. So obviously all through California, Arizona.
Explain to those listening,
Utah, Montana.
Explain to those listening what the hotshot does.
So the hotshot crew is a 20-man crew of 2 teams. There's Alpha and Bravo. There's 2 teams of 10, and you go out and they either will have you hike in or they drop you in by helicopter, wherever you got to get to on for a wildland fire. So you're not doing any city related stuff. This is all just wildland stuff. And you are going out to go where the engines can't go. And so
you get dropped in by helicopter?
You can, yeah, they'll find a peak and they'll drop you off right there from the helicopter. And so you'll do that. You'll work your way to the fire, and with chainsaws, axes, all that kind of stuff, you're just chopping down the fuel. You're removing the fuel that's in front of the fire before it gets there.
Got it.
And then you light a small fire in front of it, and the big fire is generating enough air coming up that it's sucking that small one into it, and it burns the fuel up to it. And so
what is it? This is fire science, right? What do you call it?
Yeah, fire science, but that would be a backfire.
Yeah. And so you, this is stuff that the general public doesn't know.
Yeah.
But no, this is super hard work, right?
Yeah.
This is the hardest of the hardest.
It's definitely the hardest stuff I've ever done physically, yeah.
Because you have to hike the mountains. You got to hike up these crazy terrains. You got all these tools.
Yep.
You got shovels, you got picks, you got chainsaws, you got whatever else you guys are carrying, all your gear. And you got to hike up the side of a mountain. Then you got to cut these trees down. And then what are you doing with the shovels? You guys are digging stuff out, moving.
Yeah, so each with the 20 guys, the chainsaws are in the front because they're chopping the big stuff down.
Okay.
Then the next guys who have the axes are coming in, the Pulaskis are coming in, and they're taking out the next set of brush and roots and all that. Then you got the next tool and the shovel and all the way down to a rake at the very end. And so by the time you work your way through it, each guy is taking their own chunk and working their way through, and you're done. And now it could be a 2 foot, 4 foot, 6 foot, 8 foot, whatever gap in between. And you made this line that circles around the fire. And so that's what you're doing. And so, yeah, but there's times where we hiked for 10 miles before you even get to where you're going to work for the next, 14 hours. And, normally you're out there for 12 to 14 hours, but sometimes you're out there for a 24-hour window because you're the first ones there and you got to keep working until other crews get there.
And it's really dangerous too, right? Because the wind can turn and fire can just all of a sudden start charging at you.
100%. Yeah. Some of my crew members got hospitalized during the Grand Prix fire out in Rancho Cucamonga. They had an incident there, and it was weather driven, and some guys had to go to the hospital from that. So it's a real risk for sure. And the wind is the biggest thing you can't control. And so that's what can change it on a dime.
You guys ever come really close to the fires?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What do you do? Run?
Normally no, because if you're running, you made many mistakes leading up to it, right? You shouldn't have to run.
Right.
You should be able to realize where you're at. You have your safety zone where you need to go to if you did have to back out. You have a deployment zone where that's where you would be running to that to get a fire shelter on and be there to survive. But a lot of times you have a lookout that is watching from a peak, and his sole job is watching that fire and seeing what it's doing and all the weather that's going on. So that way, the moment it changes, he's on the radio saying, all right, hey, go ahead and pull back to the safety zone or get to the deployment site. And that's his sole job. And so that way, the rest of us can have our head down, working, and we're just getting the job done. So,
did you ever? I mean, when people think about firefighting, they think about driving around on a big rig, like through town, going and save a cat, do whatever, no, burning houses. You got the hoses out. You guys are hooking up to fire hydrants. You're, all of that. The heroes of town, right? You guys are saving everybody, but think about hiking up in the middle of the mountains. Like, nobody sees that. Nobody knows you guys are digging trenches around an entire perimeter of a fire to try to stop it, and then burning that to stop this thing from happening. I mean, it's how many, you said there's 20 and 20 per team?
There's 2 teams on one hotshot crew. And so there's 20 guys total, and it depends on the size of the fire, but you can have several hotshot crews or other hand crews that are on there. But yeah, it was definitely a fun season of life. I loved it. It was the most challenging physically that I've done, but I loved it.
Yeah. And so, how many states did you do? Or you said you did all of California?
Yeah, California, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Montana.
Wow.
Probably a couple others I'm forgetting.
That's fun.
Yeah, and then after that, I made my way to a city engine where just doing the typical calls in a city where car accidents, medical aids, structure fires, those kind of things, and been there ever since for the last 18 years at my current department. And then I'm transferring out here to another department in Southern California to kind of get closer to home.
Exciting. He's going to be close.
Yep.
Yeah, we've been praying about that. We're stoked about that.
It's been many years in the making.
Yeah, very cool. And you see a lot of crazy stuff from week to week, right? I mean, you process the kind of the darkness of our society. A lot of people don't see a lot of car accidents, a lot of death, a lot of things that happen that you have to process and work through. And you've been doing that for 20 years. How do you connect your job to the Lord to, peace and rest, and or like? How do you find the medium, place like in all of that? I think a lot of people would have a hard time processing that.
Yeah, it definitely gives you the sobriety of how short life is and how quickly it can end. Because it doesn't matter if it's a 6-month-old or a 60-year-old. Death is it doesn't matter. So it definitely does shape in your view to realize that you need to take life seriously because it can be over. Being a believer going through all of that has been wonderful because you know that the Lord's providence and sovereignty is over all of it. So what I do know is there's been moments where we're on a call, and whether it's a person who's severely injured or we're doing CPR or anything like that, where I've literally just been praying while doing the thing, just like, Lord, be gracious to him. Don't know if he's a believer, but give him more time, those kind of things. So, which is neat, the fact that this person has a believer praying for them despite whatever the situation. But dealing with it is when you come back to the station and people really kind of the guys at the station want to ask questions. If it's like someone young dies, well, now it sparks some questions. And there's really good gospel opportunity with that, which is really neat because you can really bottle it up, and you have to be careful that you talk about it. But you can see a difference between the unbeliever who is trying to process this evil and why did this happen, versus knowing, as a believer that the Lord's in charge of all of it.
You've shared with us stories over the years where you'll send a text or whatever, be like, hey, pray for this guy in my firehouse, whatever. I've been sharing the Lord with them. Pray for my captain. This, you've asked us to pray for your guys in there, and you have been kind of a missionary in there, like loving and serving these guys and sharing truth as often as you can. And you've been able to be a light in there. You feel God's called you into the firehouse to shine for him.
Absolutely, because there has definitely been moments where you're like, well, Lord, should I join ministry? Should I, when I was kind of just getting more and more with the Lord, but then as I was becoming stronger in the Lord, doors would open up to share, and then you just come to the realization that, well, this is my ministry of where I'm at. You're in a dark place and you have many opportunities. And what's very unique about the fire department is you're there for a third of the year with your crew, because it's on average 10 days a month. And so a third of the year you're with them, and they're your second family. And I was at a house with 8 guys. We had a truck company, an engine company, and so we all eat together. So we're all around the table. We're all talking. Any topic comes up.
Tell people, you do like 24-hour shifts. You do 48-hour shifts.
Yeah. So my department, we have a 48-96 schedule. So I go in for 2 days, 48 hours, and I'm off for 4.
Yeah.
And that's my schedule. 2, 4, 2, 4.
Yeah.
Other departments have a different rotation, but it all equals to 10 days a month.
So the reason it's different than most jobs is that you're actually living with these people for 2 days straight.
100%.
You're eating all the meals with them. You're hanging out with them all day, every day. You're working with them. So you're like full
Sleeping,
roommate.
Yeah, it is your home.
Yeah, it's 100%. Your home with them. Yeah.
And which that enables, unlike if you're working at Starbucks or someone else, it's really not appropriate to just be like, hey, well, let's just spend time and sit and chat about something, when it's like, hey, well, I got to be working. Versus here, as long as your training's done, everything's up to par, and you guys aren't on a call. It's downtime. We're not on a call. We're chatting.
Yeah.
And so wonderful conversations arise, and I've been able to share with many of the guys that I've worked with and in my department, and I've had some wonderful times. We have a whiteboard there in the TV room, and I'd be just going over, here's the gospel and what's going on, and they'd be asking questions and going through, and so the Lord has definitely been gracious in opening up those wonderful opportunities.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, again, I love it. I just love the fact that we got a firefighter in our town who's in the firehouse, who's basically a mini theologian, like sitting there, like ready, shining the light of Christ, like into this place, fully equipped. Again, you see a guy in a firefighter suit, with a hose, like putting out a fire. You see him as a hotshot with a shovel in his hand, but little do you know, he's got the sword of the Spirit. He has the sword of God's word in his heart, and he is going to battle with these men there in the firehouse each week, trying to win them to Christ, and really been doing this consistently for years.
Yeah, and you very quickly understand the importance of how a Christian should be the hardest working person, and because you're building up your reputation to where they respect you because they know that they can count on you to do the job. They can count on you to be a hard worker. And so then when you open your mouth to share on this topic, they have respect for you in the job. And so that is why I've even had guys comment to me, guys who are atheists, and be like, you know, of anyone that I'm able to talk to about religion, it's Rinaldo. And so that comes from a standpoint of setting that groundwork first, and then also to just doing it in a way where, you know, I am ready to give an account for the hope that is within me. I'm not trying to jam it down them. So the Lord will open up the door, and you just have to be faithful then to share it at that moment. And they really sense that.
Was there ever a time when you, I don't know, it seems like a lot of Christians try to, sadly, separate their work from their Christian walk. Do you felt like it was so fluid in your life that it just, like, it kind of just poured into the firehouse? Like, was it just a smooth transition, or did you ever felt like there was a defining moment where you're like, you know what? I realized that, like, I think you kind of said it earlier, like, this is my ministry, or like, this isn't just my job. Like, this is my life. This is my ministry. This is what God's called me to do. And I need to, it's what's been given to me to steward. And I don't want to waste this. Was there a moment when you realized that, or do you felt like it was very natural since you were young? Because you were 19, 20 stepping into the academy, but then we met at Harvest probably around 22. And
right. And it wasn't until my mid 20s when that kind of at Harvest of when that kind of got me going. So I was already in for a while. And I was, you know, at some parties with them or doing whatever, but then
interesting,
all that stopped. So they did see a stop, and then they saw, I'm sure, a growth. And then a moment of maturing later. So I'm sure they've seen windows of that came through, because some of the guys have been there just as long as I have.
Wow.
There. So they've seen that process, but it's overarching since mid-20s that has been the case.
Especially when we're spending most of our time at work, you know, in the society, we spend a lot of time there, a lot of hours there. It's like, how can we waste that time as Christians and kind of like turn off the light, you know, and just be like, I'm just here to do my job, get it done, go home. It's like, no. Like, Christ has you in there. The Lord has you in there for good reason, to shine His glory, shine His light, shine His love, shine His truth into that atmosphere, and to start those conversations and to get those things happening, because we want them to come to know the Lord. We want them to be set free from all that they're working through in life. And I can't tell you how many times I have had the opportunity of, what I do is I pray often, Lord, open up a door. Because I try not to do it, but I'm always, Lord, you open up the door so I know it's really you want me to share. It's good.
And I cannot tell you how many times He has answered that prayer. And many Christians do really need to realize that if you're actively looking for an open door, He has many sheep out there that want to hear. And we just are like, oh, I'm just focused on my work, or I'm focused on this. I'm not really seeking it and wanting to be used. And it has been so many times where I'm surprised at how fast that prayer is done and a door opens. And it's just like, this is clearly, and next thing I know, I'm for the next hour with no call going on, describing the gospel, and you know what I mean? So that wouldn't have happened had I not been actively like, Lord, like, if you have someone here who needs to hear the word, like, open up the door. And He has done that many times.
Yeah, the passage comes to mind, you know, just what you said, my sheep hear my voice. Like, it's interesting to like think through this picture. There's a sheep standing there. He's not saved yet, but he is a sheep standing there. He's going to be saved. He's part of God's plan. One Christian walks up, doesn't say the words of Christ, doesn't, again, my sheep hear my voice. They don't say the Lord's voice. They don't say any of His truth. They don't say any of His words. They don't say anything. They walk away. The next Christian walks up, says the words of Christ, speaks the truth of this person, and that sheep immediately starts following.
Yeah.
My sheep hear my voice. They will. He is working out salvation. We don't know in who. We have no idea who He's working in, what He's doing. We must preach the gospel to the whole world, to all nations, believing that Christ is working through that. But it's so sad that so many Christians never open their mouth.
And you don't realize how many treasures that you would, as a as a Christian would receive in heaven for doing the work of the Lord, that if you were just distracted or you weren't actively out, hey, I want to be used by God, and you're missing so many blessings of knowing I got to share with the sheep. Whether I knew that they became a sheep as a result of me, because many times it's like, it'll probably be years later.
Right.
But was I a planter or a waterer
right.
to one of God's sheep? And many Christians are just going by and not knowing that you have that opportunity to be doing one of those too.
Yeah, you never know what God is doing. You never know how he wants to use you, and it's not going to happen until you start taking steps of faith to do so. So you, again, from Harvest to into the Fire Academy, have grown in the fire department, and you stepped into Grace Community Church, John MacArthur's church, and were there for a long time.
Yeah, about 10 years or so.
Yeah, and grew there spiritually exponentially. I mean, I saw even from a distance, just watching you grow in the knowledge of God's word and the understanding of his word, deepening in your faith. And you met your wife there.
I did.
Yeah.
Shannon.
Yes. And got to be there at your wedding, and so thankful for Shannon and putting up with us crazies over here. I say us, because I'm a part of the gang, Shannon will laugh at that, but it's, why's
your phone going off all the time?
Yeah.
That group text, turn it off.
It's really true though. It's like all of our wives are all ticked off because the group text is always going off. Is that the brothers? He's like, yeah. Is that the brothers? Turn that thing off. It's like, just because all of a sudden you'll walk away from your phone, and you'll come back like 30 minutes later. It's like 100 texts went off, and it's just like, what is going on over there? It's really funny. Is once we start going at it, we're just going at it. It's a lot of fun. You got to know a lot of the professors over there, a lot of the pastors over there, and crazy story. Side tangent. You helped sneak me in the back door to Masters, and we just planted the church, and Ryan lived in town here in LA, and I was like, dude, let's do coffee. And you're like, let's meet over at Grace Cup or whatever it is, Is that it?
Steeple House.
Steeple House, okay. Which is a coffee shop on Grace Community's campus. And we're sitting there, and then Mark Zukevich comes up, who's a professor there, pastor there. And we start talking, and he's like, oh, what do you do? I'm like, oh, we just planted a church in Studio City. Oh, no, Ryan, all these years, yada, yada. And then he's like, dude, you should be trained, And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, have you ever wanted to be trained in seminary and like that? I'm like, I don't know. I've thought about it, like, well, we're starting like in 2 weeks. You want to jump in? I'm like, okay. And this is an MDiv, Master of Divinity program. I'm just like, okay. So I got snuck in the back door at the hand of Ryan Rinaldo to get in. And so that Grace Community. Side tangent, I just thought of this as a great story, though, because I said, by the hand of Ryan. Now, if you don't know, Ryan has the largest hands on the planet. And one time, you'll love this, Dave.
I know which one you're going.
One time, I had this house in Riverside, and it's up off Van Buren, Mockingbird Canyon area. And one day, I'm like, I don't know what happened. Something happened with the water.
They came and locked your water. They put a padlock on it. Yeah.
They put a padlock on my water main. I don't know how long I'd been in the house. Maybe it was a month or two, and maybe like something didn't get turned over. Somehow, I don't know if a credit card like expired and then like it didn't make a payment or something. But I'm like, all of a sudden, I go to turn on the water in the morning and it's off, and I'm like, dude, my water's off. Like my water has never been off. Like what's going on here? So I call up Ryan. I'm like, dude, they turned my water off. What's going on here? Or no, maybe you were already there. You were coming over.
I was already there, and you showed me, and you're like, dude, they put this padlock on.
Yeah, I put that padlock on. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? So Ryan's just like, no, we might be able to take care of that real quick. I'm like, what do you mean? I had some...
you didn't even have bolt cutters, because that's what you would normally cut with, is big bolt cutters.
I was going to cut it off with bolt cutters because I had to take a shower, or I know Katie had to get ready for something, go to work. That we had to like get out of there, get ready, and go to work, go do something. And Ryan's like, I could snap that. I'm like, what? I could snap that off. I'm like, are you serious? I pull out these little, like, I don't know. They're like these little, like metal
Dyke pliers.
Yeah, little metal cutters. And Ryan literally like wraps his hands around this thing and just snaps it, like snaps the metal, like whatever lock like right off the thing, and we just turned the water back on. And we were on our way.
You were just you were in awe. You were just in shock and awe, laughing, and like, what just happened?
So he has iron hands, and yeah, we use those iron hands when we need them, and we also. We make fun of Ryan for having the largest hands in the world, and he makes fun of us saying, hold my hand when we need help. And so anyways, fine. But we were at Grace. We were there and stepped into seminary there for a couple of years and got to know a bunch of people. But you anchored in Grace and grew exponentially and got to know a lot of people and served a lot there. Any like super treasures that you felt like you walked away with? Because you're now currently at
Bethany Bible Church with Paul Twiss in Thousand Oaks.
Yes. Yeah. And this is a lot closer to you guys' home, and he's
12 minutes from home.
Yeah.
And it's been a blessing. It's a small church, true local church, and we are just loving it at Bethany. But yeah, being at Grace, and my wife grew up there, her parents grew up there, we got married there.
All those listening, we want to know what's going on inside there, because everybody, you know, it's John MacArthur's church, you know, he stood against, you know, the city of LA, you know, he stood against the governor of California.
We got a new movie for that just is coming out.
Hey,
so
plug commercial for the movie, The Essential Church. And, but you're on the inside, and you experienced all that. A lot of people talk about John MacArthur. A lot of people have his commentaries on their bookshelf, but a lot of people have never been in there. They don't really know what the church is all about. Yeah,
MacArthur has always been known as someone who is very bold for the truth. He used to be on Larry King Live and different, you can find a lot of his stuff where he's on different talk shows, really standing up for the gospel. And it's just, he's always been known as like almost the Spurgeon of our day of just being a preacher of the word and the gospel. And he has really grown the church, obviously through the Lord's work of just building out this church. It's very solid, very faithful to the gospel. And
50 years?
It's something like that. It's a very long time. And it's great because then he grew it out and he put the seminary in. They have the Master's University as well up in Santa Clarita. They're just opening up some elementary schools. So they are very serious about the education of the Christians and the public. So, but it has been great there for myself and my family because you're really growing up around, especially coming out of so many variations of doctrines that I slowly had to just work through so many different things.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. So grew so much there. And the Lord has allowed me to be a part of different ministries there. We were part of different Grace on Campus at UCLA or different things like that where we would help with different students and mentor them. But yeah, grew a lot at Grace. But now after COVID, we moved out to the Thousand Oaks, Santa Rosa Valley area. And Paul Twiss took over the church there for Lance Quinn. And we decided to make that move there. I knew Paul from Grace and from not Harvest, from the Shepherd's Conference that he always used to speak at. And I just knew once he came there, man, I would love to transfer over there. And then about a month later, Shannon voiced, hey, we should go check it out too. So we went, and first day there, we loved it, and we've stayed ever since. We've been there almost 2 years now. And he just finished up going through Ephesians and just the importance of the local church and the value of the body pouring into each other. We are really there to help encourage each other and grow in our walk, in our sanctification. And that really comes from having a love for the local church.
Yeah, no, it's the local church is so important, especially with all the technology going on in this day and age. A lot of people say, I don't need to go to church. You know, I don't need to be involved in church. And a lot of times people just watch online. You know,
they did that during COVID. It was huge.
Right. And watch online during COVID. It was made readily available by all churches or most churches. They were trying to aid to those who obviously were at home or couldn't open their doors, whatever it may be. But a lot of people just stayed in that rhythm. They're just like, we don't need to go back to church. We'll just watch online.
Yeah. And they called that, I'm doing church. I'm just doing it from home. But that was where Grace took such a stand during that time of, nope, the church is essential. Meeting together is essential. When it's saying don't forsake the gathering of believers, it's truly coming together in person so you can face to face see how you're doing, encourage each other, exhort each other, worship the Lord together. And that's what the scripture commands. And so MacArthur and the elders there in unison all really stood on that. And yeah, sure, the county sued them. They went to court. They won that battle. And
didn't they win like $1 million or something crazy like that?
I think it was somewhere between $600,000 or $800,000, and they gave it to the lawyers as a because those lawyers were doing it just hey, we want to help, and so Grace gave that to them.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's crazy because, I mean, the best headlines, though, that came through the news, it's just like John MacArthur sues, this, California or the, city of LA. They tried to lay the smackdown on the church, and it came back the other direction, and it was just like, everybody's like, yeah. I mean, we're so excited to see it happen.
Yeah.
But what a crazy time. Yeah. And what a word for many listening today. There is nothing like, I mean, even though we're texting every day, probably. I mean, I'm reading one of Ryan's texts. We're texting almost every single day in those brothers' texts. We're in contact with all these guys, but there's nothing like when we get together. Same thing with the local church. There's like, you could watch 100 sermons online, but there's nothing like getting up Sunday morning, going to church and experiencing the body of Christ, singing together, praying together, receiving the word together, receiving communion together, fellowshipping together, growing in community together. There is nothing, that's why it's very clear. Do not forsake the gathering of the brothers. Like, do not forsake the gathering of the church. We need to be together.
Well, if we even think about our text messages, how many times has the text message ever been something of like, something truly deep that we're going through? It's always been in person. It's like, hey, I need to confess this, or hey, I'm struggling through this. Like, you're not really doing that through text. So even though you can really be in on what is going on in someone's life through text, you don't really get to the true, hey, how are you really doing? Those conversations have always come up in person. And if you're away from that, you're not having that opportunity to really say, hey, so like, tell me how are you doing? How's the family doing? How's your walk doing? How's your purity doing? So those have all come in person.
Right. And it's essential that it happens in person, because I think that we can feel each other out. It's like, as we're talking, it's just like, wait, you said that, is that okay? Like, what's going on? Like, and you can start to, through text, through email, through any of that kind of, you kind of don't see a lot of that stuff. And that's why that human interaction is so important. And God, I'm so thankful to God, for the brotherhood and the relationships that have been created, where we knew each other when we were all just a bunch of idiot 20-year-olds, running around, just, doing whatever. And I said it before on the podcast. It's like there was nothing spectacular about any of us. We're just a bunch of dudes running together, trying to figure out how to love God, trying to find our wives, trying to, really trying to anchor ourselves in Him, in His Word. And we're messy, we're sloppy, we're all trying to figure it out. And that was the best thing, that precedent was set from the beginning. Because it's funny, when we come together now, like maybe we have a couple, things in order now, and maybe we've gained a little bit of rank, in our worlds of work or whatever we do. But it's funny that when we get back in that circle, we're kind of just, it's all back to the same.
Yeah, it's all back to the same. And it's been that tight group of true fellowship. Being in person is where it really does challenge you to want to strive for more. And it's been a blessing as to have all of us, Aaron back there, just being in the group, just, all of us together.
Yes. So. Yeah. Yeah. The spread goes very wide, and we got a lot of guys, and we did throw a big party, and a lot of people got to show up.
That's right.
Our 40th birthday. And Ryan hosted at their place, and we threw this massive party. And because, again, our birthday is only like 3 days apart, so we just figured, let's just do the big shebang. And a bunch of people showed up, and like it was kind of one of the first times in, again, like 15 years, like everybody, or a lot, probably 80-90% of the brothers and the crew was together. It was really special.
But that's where I think for the listeners, it really is key to see the whole reason on why the Lord does have the local church truly being a local church, truly wanting you to be discipled, and also be discipling others, right? Because there's going to be different phases of people's growth, and everyone should be being discipled by somebody and be discipling someone, because you always have something to pass along to someone who is less along than you are in the Lord. And there's not a single person who isn't the chief of sinners, in their own way, and that can't graciously lead and say, hey, I've done these mistakes. Let me help you.
Yes.
When you think of Peter, who I'll never, I'll always follow you. I'll never deny you. And yet he did. And the Lord says, but when you come back, strengthen the brothers. And that happens in person. You can't do that remotely. And if there's anyone who's still thinking that doing church is from a screen, or you just don't get the same.
I just taught this text like two weeks ago. Yeah, one thing that tripped me out is that the Lord tells Peter to his face that he's going to deny him. Peter says, no, I'm not. And then it still 100% happens. And they're like, yeah, that's the obvious. No. Like, what if Jesus told you you're going to fail this way and you're going to do it tonight? And you look him in the face and say, no, I'm not. And then you literally do exactly as he said you would do that night. Talk about who's in control.
Yeah. We just had a pastor who came and spoke on the text as well. And in the beginning, you know that he's called Simon, and later his name Peter. But yet the Lord talks to him, Simon. In this moment, it's like, why is he referring to him as Simon when he's speaking? He's almost letting him know you're going to be going back to the person who you were before. But Peter, when you come back. And so if you look at those names and how he utilizes that, it really shows there's like that little hint of, he's giving him a glimpse of like, you're going to be tempted to go back to your previous before who you were, but remember that's not who you are. Like, come. And so even that is interesting of just how the Lord knew that. And it's a great testimony to people who you'll have moments in your life where you do have significant failures.
Yes.
And I have significant ones throughout my life. And yet the Lord uses those to humble you.
Yes.
So that you are a gracious person to pass on that grace to the next person. And you just have to take that and run with it to the next person and pass that along.
Yeah, you don't understand grace until you need it the most. You the one who is forgiven much loves much.
That's one of my favorite verses, when you just think of everyone is on a scale, like we're almost all the same when you look in comparing to Jesus, right? We're all just as far.
Right.
But the person who really has that understanding of being forgiven much, that love that they have for others is definitely more.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's like, it blew my mind that basically Jesus is saying, you're going to pick up that cup tonight. And Peter's like, no, I'm not. I'm never going to pick up a cup. I will never do that. I will die before I do that. And literally, it's like, you think Peter would have like saw his hand reaching out and like, it's like, it's happening, like he didn't, he completely forgot. And then the rooster crows and then he remembers, locks eyes with Jesus. And it's like, oh no, like I did exactly as he said. But there's a phrase there early on through that chapter where Jesus says, you will all fall away because of me. You will all fall away because of me. It's been something I've been meditating on a lot. Because obviously the obvious is that they will all fall away because he's about to be scourged and crucified and, because of me. But, right, the next thing that Jesus says is he quotes a prophecy from Zechariah 13, which says they will strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. You will all fall away because of me. But what's tripped me out, dude, is like part of the arc or the story of our life is falling, is failing. And that is what makes the story that much more beautiful when redemption and grace comes in. What if we did, and it's really hard to process and fully understand why and how that works. But if the arc was salvation, like you come to know Christ and then all of a sudden you're just perfect.
Yeah.
The story does not connect as well for some reason in the human genome. Like it doesn't like connect. But for some reason we see with Moses, for some reason we see with David, for some reason we see with Paul, with Peter, for some reason we see in the arc of their story failures, dropping the ball, messing up. Christ shows up with mercy and grace, and that is the power of the redemption story. And that is our story. You will all fall because of me. It is a part. I am the author and finisher of the faith. I write the story.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm doing. And you get too prideful and arrogant, I will pull the rug and I will allow you to fall. And it happened to me. God has done this in my own life. And you're right, Ryan. It's like until that happens, we don't fully taste of grace. is on until we need it the most.
Yeah, and Romans 9 paints that picture of what if the Lord is willing to endure with much patience vessels for wrath in order to demonstrate his grace on vessels of mercy. It's that black drop of the black velvet that the grace shines so greatly. And I know many are said, well, why did the Lord just even create this world? He could have just made it perfect. And why did he have to allow the sin to come in? And he wanted to make a people for himself that he could demonstrate all of his attributes, who he really is. He wanted to have a people know all of him.
That's good.
And would that have happened if he created and didn't allow for sin to enter the world? We would know him as creator. We would know him as provider. We would know him as all those things. But because of the fall, we now know him as forgiving. Wow. We know him as patience, long-suffering. We now know him as a savior. We know him as righteous, as holy, as all these attributes that we would never have known about the God of the universe had he not allowed sin to enter in. And he's using that as a tool to demonstrate who he is. And he's going to judge that sin. And at the same time, he's giving a full display of who he is, that had we just been like the angels and he said, all right, I'm not going to allow you guys to fall, we wouldn't have known him in all his other attributes that are what we say would be the most humbling attributes of, man, you actually are patient with me.
Yeah, it's like part of the darkness of our story reveals the beauty of who he is.
Yeah.
And it's difficult that it works out this way, because I've been shocked at my own story and my own life to see that some of my darkest moments have actually, brought like illumination to God more than ever in my life, and it's changed me forever. And I wish it wasn't that way. I wish I could just read the text and grow and be on my way.
Yeah, I obey.
Yeah, I obey now. And I wish I could take fertilizer and throw it on my plant and I would just, water it and grow. It's like, it doesn't work that way. Like, we have to go through the fire. We have to go through the storms. We have to be tested. We have to be refined. And God accomplishes his purpose even in our failures. He brings it back for his glory. Praise God. And his grace shows up from so many different angles. It changes us forever. And
it really does.
We run away. We want to love him more. David was stung so bad by what happened, and it burned him so bad. He still remained the man after God's own heart, but he kept playing. He kept singing. He kept worshiping the Lord. He kept walking with him as best he could to the end of his life. But there's nothing like it, these moments that show up in our lives. And I'm blessed to have the brothers through all those seasons.
Yeah. Well, and even like you said, when there is sin, we want to run away and hide. And that is where one of the biggest growths I think I had in my Christian walk was from Doug Wilson, who he has a sermon, and I'd highly recommend everyone watch it. It's called Honesty with God, Confession of Sin, and Honesty with God, Growing in Grace. And it's the reality of being honest with God and saying, I can hide sin from anybody. I can hide it from the brothers at moments I have, right? And so, but I can't hide it from him. And so I need to be honest with God,
right,
and have honest confession of sin and bring it to the light. Because Scripture says that he is light, right? And we need to come to that light. And in that coming to the light, our sin is exposed to the light. And the sinner wants to go and run off and be in a dark corner and hide in the dark. Well, your sin festers in that situation. But if you come to the light, it's not our job as humans to cover our sin, because we can't cover our sin. It's our job to come to the light and expose our sin to Christ, the light, and he covers it with his blood that he shed on the cross.
Yes.
And so the understanding of that, of where, man, well, I can't really confess this because what will people think? And so you wonder why sin has a hold on your life for such a long period of time. Have you truly come into the light with every ounce of sin, right? Bring that to the light And once it comes to light, that sin loses its power. And it truly is, man, I'm free from that. And Doug talks about when that honesty comes in and you confess, well, now you have the honesty with God, you're able to grow in grace. If you have a child who is being disobedient, you're not going to continue to pour out blessings upon them when they know they're being disobedient, and you're waiting for them to come and repent and to be honest. And that's all they have to do is be honest. But it's like, well, I see what you're hiding there.
Right.
You're not going to get the blessing while you're doing that.
Right.
And many times we do that thinking, well, I'm okay. I'll make up this by effort, or I'll change by how hard I'm trying. And it's like, no. Bring it to the light, expose it. And in that, the grace of God just helps you grow in your sanctification. That was so I can't highly recommend that series enough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that God's blessings and promises have stopped pouring. They're all there. They're 100% pouring and moving. It's
actually his blessing is not giving you wonderful blessings to stay in the sin.
Right. And I mean, I love this picture. I think it's in Isaiah. He says, my hand is not short that I can't reach you. My ear is not dull that I can't hear you. It is your sin that keeps you from me. It is your sin that is stopping this. And I say, this inheritance that we receive in Christ, these promises and blessings that he has poured, I like thinking of it as a faucet, like pouring out. And literally when we harbor sin, or when we pull ourselves away from the Lord, it's almost like we're pulling ourselves completely out from under the faucet. And we're over here. We're not in the light anymore. We're literally in the darkness. We're harboring away. And like you said, it starts to fester and grow, starts to burn up. And we're literally missing out on the blessings of God and the promises of God in our lives. Because again, it's not that his hand's short that he can't reach you. He can.
Yeah.
It's not that his ear's dull that he can't hear you. He hears. It is your sin that is doing. You are stopping yourself from literally obtaining all the light and all that is sitting right there in front of you. And praise God sometimes when he just kicks down the door, and fully just shuts the whole thing down. I'm so thankful that he does sometimes. But what Ryan's pointing out, and I think what's really important, is that it's James, confess your sins one to another that you may be healed. And that healing happens emotionally, spiritually, physically, even James is talking about it in that text. But this confession of sin to God and to one another, so important and crucial. I think you used the word free, like as we do so, we find this moment where we are freed. Like we feel free. We feel, you can take a deep breath, we feel set free from whatever has been, we've been holding secret, or it's been, barreling down on our shoulders.
It's that 1 John that talks about God is light, and in him there is no darkness. If we say we have fellowship with him and yet we walk in darkness, we lie and we don't practice the truth. And if the Christian who isn't walking the light is in a dangerous spot, because you're sitting there trying to hide in the dark a little bit, but the loving Father won't let that happen. He'll at some point bring you to your knees by any means, right? And bring that, and it really does bring healing. It releases the power of a sin that's in there, and so. It's needed. And imagine just the relationships that improve as a result as well, and it's truly coming to the people and being honest. I remember in our vehicle when we were driving one day, and I was like, hey, Josh, I have to ask for your forgiveness for not truly being honest with times of confession before in the past, of just saying, hey, I said I was doing okay here. I really wasn't. Will you forgive me for lying to you? But
you did.
What's a blessing is Doug paints that picture of when you're trying to clear out a garage and you open up and it's just bursting at the seams with junk. People will sit back and be like, well, I can't go through everything. He's like, just start with the first thing. Just confess the first sin that's on your mind. Then confess. The Lord will bring to memory what is the next thing. And go until you have exhausted any sin that you need to repent. And what's wonderful after that is the garage is clean. You're like, ah. And it's like a garden where it's like the weeding is done. Now, every day, just go out for 5 minutes. And all you're doing is just you're picking up a little weed that's starting. And that's the small sin that, I got to repent of that immediately. Because then never again am I going to be there and have these weeds that are 10 feet tall, or this garage is packed to the seam, because you're putting away things immediately.
It's good.
Into the light. Yes. And it's done.
And I bet, what I've experienced as well is in doing so, you think that maybe you're going to lose the relationship or it's going to change the relationship dynamic. And what's been shocking is oftentimes it anchors the relationship more.
Yeah.
You know,
because the person who you're confessing to and asking for forgiveness, they can genuinely tell when there's genuineness behind it.
Right.
If you're just like, oh, I'm sorry, but if there's like a brokenness and they can genuinely see that true repentance is hard to fake, you know, of a humble heart. And people can, but over time it's going to be evident that was faked. And it does. They have that sense, if they're a believer, they want to forgive because then they're reminded of the forgiveness that they've received from the Lord.
Well, it's powerful for the brothers is like what I've noticed in the middle of all of this is that, yeah, anytime I've confessed or anytime I've had to like bring up something and talk through some issue that have going on, the guys being, again, not hesitating to correct me, thank you, but also not hesitating to love me and serve me and pour grace. And it's like you feel in a common space, you know, it's like, no, we're all the same. You know, like we've all been in seasons. We're all going through it. We love you. We're for you. We're going to pray for you. We're going to build you up. That's power, you know, because too often most people will not confess or even go down that road of trying to work out any of that because they're so scared they're going to lose the person.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any time ever losing a brother in those moments. I only remember us being strengthened more and more and encouraged. And so, and I don't know, the older I get, the less shocked I am, to be honest, because I know myself.
Yeah.
Paul started off saying I'm a sinner, and by the end of his life writing letters, I am the chief of all sinners. You want to know how? Because he has analyzed his life for decades, and he sees I have to be the chief, man. I am like, for sure. I've been counting my sins, and I know there's a lot.
Yeah, it's often that people think that they're alone in their situation. Like, I'm really the only one that I know that deals with a sin or anything, whatever it could be. And it's like, there's nothing new under the sun. Bring it to the light, confess one to another, and restore the friendship, restore the relationship. And the Lord's grace works through that. And it's really a fear of consequences versus a fear of the Lord. And we need to have a fear of the Lord of saying, if I'm trying to hide from you, Lord,
that's good.
It's woe to falling into the hands of the Lord, right? It's like, I want to have his fear in my heart, not the fear of a consequence. And don't let that be the hurdle that keeps you from having true fellowship and friendship. And there's real consequences. There's things where maybe it is something you confess in, and there's a real consequence that you can't change. But the grace that will surround that and bring you through that is well worth it.
No, it's, again, I said it before, but I'm so thankful for the relationships that have been built. And, you know, we're a bunch of sloppy guys still trying to figure it out. Ask our wives, okay? We're not, you know, we definitely don't have it together. You know, we're just men. We're just men just trying to figure it out. And we're just, again, guys trying to navigate marriage, trying to navigate young families, trying to navigate work, you know, keep loving our wives, keep loving our kids, keep loving our jobs, trying to figure all that out. And by the grace of God, just walking with him, loving him, trying to love and serve the people around us, you know, will make it. A lot of people don't know this, but you are primarily a carnivore.
I am.
You, extremely healthy. And you have pushed, and we've had endless conversations about this as well, about eating meat and or pushing into the carnivore space and being healthy, especially in a culture that we live in today. My gosh, you could list off a lot of things that are probably killing us off or hurting us as a population and stealing away our joy and our peace as humans because we're just so unhealthy in America. What turned you on to this? Where'd this come from?
I had, I've always tried just like Whole30 one time. Like I had,
Right. No, Whole30. Yeah. Right. Explain what Whole30 is.
It's just eating whole foods only for, you know, just real food.
For 30 days.
For 30 days. Yeah. And felt great. But the big reason that really changed my desire to go down this road was I had stomach issues and it was just in pain. And I remember going to the doctor and like, hey, can I get tested? And my sister has celiac. And so I said, hey, can you give me a just see if I'm gluten intolerant or anything like that. And she just kind of laughed, like, oh, that's such a fad. Well, 2 weeks later, the results came in. She apologized and said, well, something's on the chart. You definitely need to go see another doctor. And so I went and had colonoscopy done, and they were like, all right, everything checks clear, but your intestines are just inflamed. Like you're just, it's swollen. And so that's why like my stomach would just always be so swollen. And after eating certain foods, and I asked her like, well, what's causing that? And could it be diet? And she's like, I don't know. And so that was it. So I just went home, started researching. I came across a couple doctors, one being Sean Baker, who's I think he's 60, 55 or 60, and just full carnivore, and really presented the aspect of the different things that are causing inflammation. And it's different today because of the grains and all the different glyphosate and all that stuff that's put into that, and the GMO products, all that really add to it, that the carnivore was really an elimination diet of getting rid of things that are causing inflammation. Yeah. And I did it. I just was like, hey, I'll give it a try. I did carnivore for 30 days, and in 3.5 weeks, I lost 30 pounds. Insane. Never felt better.
Yeah. So you lost 30 pounds.
3.5 weeks.
In 3.5 weeks. And it healed your stomach.
Yeah. So, and Shannon laughs about it, because if I go and have something, like I'll just go, and whether it's pizza or pasta or something, and it feels and looks like I'm pregnant. Like just the swelling is visible.
But you maintained muscle.
Oh yeah.
But you just shredded.
Yeah.
In 3.5 weeks. And when Ryan does something, he always is extreme, like absolutely extreme. And the most extreme about all the brothers, but I love it. You know, it's like, it's what makes him who he is, and it pushes everyone else to get after it too. But so you step in again. Explain this carnivore diet. I mean, we're talking Ryan does not mess around. Okay, we're talking like freezers of meat, and we're talking about some of the healthiest meats on the planet. Like searching to make sure it's all clean and some of the best fed and all of the rest. Tell somebody what you love to eat. Like what does an average meal look like?
So it's just full animal products. So I'm having mostly red meat, so beef, bison, anything like that.
Ryan loves a good ribeye.
Oh, ribeye is my go-to. That's what I have the most, and mainly because
he sends us pictures all the time in the group text.
Right, but it's because it's the ribeye has the right ratio of protein to fat. You know, versus you can have a fillet and it's real lean, but no fat. So. But yeah,
fat's important.
It is, because our cells are made up of protein and amino acids, and so
they've been telling us for years fat's the worst thing for us.
That and stay away from meat because cholesterol.
By the way, this is not health advice.
This is not health advice. I'm not a doctor.
We're just telling you what we do.
Well, although UCLA did do a study and they published it, that the third leading cause of death in the United States is wrongly prescribed treatments from doctors.
Of course.
So I'm not a doctor, but just take that in mind.
Insane. But so they've been telling us for years that fat is bad for you.
Correct. And fat is bad for you if you're having the wrong kind of fat. That's where animal-based fat is, I would argue, is the best fat for you. And having cholesterol is not the issue. The average heart attack is within a normal cholesterol range. And I believe it's close to 1/3 of annual heart attacks that happen annually. Majority of them are on statins and with close to or within normal cholesterol range. So the aspect of having a normal cholesterol range is not what keeps you from having a heart attack. It's what is taking that cholesterol and damaging it. What is oxidizing that cholesterol and really hurting that? And
what does it?
There's a number of things. So that's where I believe one of the leading causes for that is seed oils, because it is already oxidized from the moment you're having the bottle open and pouring that oil, or it's in the food.
Rapeseed oil.
Canola oil, safflower oil, soybean oil, palm oil, all those. It's kind of like you've heard a phrase, don't cook with olive oil.
Right.
Because once you heat it up to a certain point, you oxidize it. You break down those the material of that. Yeah. And it no longer is healthy. And the seed oils, through the aspect of how they are actually processed and extracted out, it ruins it and it oxidizes it. and they actually have to go through a deodorizing process within the plant. They look like a oil refinery.
Wow.
If you Google seed oil plant.
Yeah.
And they have to deodorize it because it smells rancid. And when you're taking that in, it's one of the highest, one of the ingredients that was added that most of our calories come from seed oils. Because if you look at your salad dressings, seed oils. If you look at your boxes, guarantee there's going to be your crackers, your chips, everything has seed oils in it. And that's where most of your fat comes from, is from those oils.
Got it.
And those are oxidized oils.
These are bad fats.
And it's just like leaving a car out, and when it starts to oxidize, that oxidation continues to spread.
Right.
Same for our own body. That oxidation will continue to spread.
He's saying on your paint, that oxidation that takes place on the paint of a hood of a car, it starts to just slowly creep and crack the paint and oxidize the entire surface of the car. That's happening to this seed oil.
Yeah, well, you're taking in the seed oil that's already oxidized, and now you're putting that into your body, and it will oxidize next to itself, and so it continues to grow
within your
oxidation.
body.
Yeah.
And so the good fats, like in a ribeye or a coming from a good cow, which we probably should explain.
Just grass-fed beef, grass-fed, grass-raised. Beef.
But there are those people who are thinking right now, like, there's no way I'm eating, Elmer, like I'm not going to eat my friends, like the cow, like you said, bison, it'd be elk, whether it be pork, bacon.
You have to be, I don't have a ton, but if I do have it, I'm finding one that is truly pasture raised.
Yeah.
Because the toxins tend to go into the body fat.
Right.
And same in animals. And so they don't really process out a lot of those toxins very good. So I don't have a ton of pork. If I do, I make sure that it meets that quality. I'll have turkey and chicken and other stuff as well that is pasture raised and whatnot. But red meat the most, because density wise of the nutrition, it has the most nutrients in it. You can almost compare chicken to the iceberg lettuce of meat, just the nutrient density of chicken, even though I'll have it, but it's mostly to change up the flavor.
And good protein source.
Yeah, good protein source. But the nutrient density of red meat is why I have that majority of the time. But I'll have wild caught salmon.
Yes.
I'll have, so I love that. I'll have like scallops and whatnot. So anything animal based, eggs, love eggs. And that is really just taking in good animal fats, good amino acids and proteins, and that is enabling your body to it shares the same amino acids and proteins, so we're able to actually absorb the stuff that we're actually eating, versus you don't necessarily the bioavailability of plants to absorb the same amount of nutrition, let alone the pesticides, herbicides, GMO, all that is sadly due to the industrial area
is sprayed on the plants.
It's because they can do that and mass produce those and make more profit. Yeah. It's a byproduct of what's going on, and that takes an effect on the health. So that's one effect. Another is just the American diet is high carb, and that leads to insulin resistance, because you can eat protein and it'll spike your insulin a little bit. You can eat fat. It almost does nothing. It doesn't spike your insulin. You have carbs and it spikes your insulin, and it stays elevated for hours. And
what happens when your insulin spikes?
Well, because when you eat carbs, you're spiking your glucose,
right,
and then your insulin rises to push the glucose back down, and it's really.
And why is that bad for your body?
Well, it's because think of, you have a glass of wine, and the first time you're like, oh, I have a glass of wine, you can feel the wine.
Sure.
But if you had one glass every single night, and then you increase to 2 glasses every single night, and you're building up a tolerance to it.
Right.
Right. Well, almost in the same way, if you have a sugary food or a high carb food in the morning, it spikes your glucose and it spikes your insulin to push down that glucose.
Right.
Well, now and that's a fast burning fuel. So that fuel gets burned up really quickly. So you need something else. So now you need a snack after. So you have a snack, and that, most of the time it's a granola bar or it's something else, and that is also carb based, which spikes the insulin up as well. The difference is the carb is a fast burning fuel and you burn through it really quickly, but the insulin stays elevated for a long time. So by the time you have your snack, you've re-pushed it up. You come to lunchtime, re-push it up. Come to another snack before dinner, you know, so you're living in this constant state of high insulin.
Which produces what?
There's a lot of, so Benjamin Bickman is a doctor that I would highly recommend on the topic, but it causes significant amount of other
health issues
as a result of your insulin being elevated.
Got it.
And having that high insulin causes a lot of havoc.
Got it.
And that carb-based diet is doing a lot of damage in that way.
Got it. And so meat-based diet does not do that. You're not going to spike at all.
I have no carbs, you know, and if occasionally I do, it comes in the form of finding some fruit that I find that's organic fruit.
Yeah. Funny story. Ryan and I walk into a sushi joint, and I remember one time we just like to order just straight salmon, just slabs of salmon on rice. And it's funny because I think we put in an order like an all-you-can-eat place. It was like 60 pieces of salmon, like 60 pieces. Just imagine 60 pieces like sitting there. Piece of salmon, piece of rice, piece of salmon, piece of rice, and it's just bang. And it's just me and Ryan sitting there, and all these dudes over on the other side of the camera, on the counter looking at us like, these white dudes, they don't know anything. What are they doing? You know, you got to pay for that. You don't eat, you know, whatever. And we're just like, and we get it, you know. Well, we don't get it, but we get it. We show up. We slaughter that thing. I mean, we literally consume so much salmon. The guys came out from behind the counter just like, we can't believe you ate all that. We surely knew that you guys were not going to eat all of that. I remember Brian, who's one of my Vietnamese friends, Brian Nguyen, I grew up with him, Vietnamese home. His mom would make us pho sometimes. And I remember she made me the big bowl one time. She knew that I was not going to finish that big bowl. And Brian was saying that too. Like, he ain't going to finish that. Crush that bowl and love pho still to this day. But anyways, we walk into the sushi place and we're the people that they basically want to kick out because we consume large amounts of fish and meat. Again, we do it not on a regular basis, though. You know,
and that was before I was carnivore as well.
Yes.
You know,
yes, with the rice. Yeah. But we walk in and have a lot of fun. Now Ryan's a little more sashimi. He's going to eat the clean slabs.
Unless it's sugarfish, then I'll make an exception.
Okay, sugarfish. We got to go next level. That's some tasty sushi. But yeah, so this has helped with a lot of health problems. Jordan Peterson goes on record saying he had autoimmune disease, and the elimination diet, just like what you said, he chose to just eat meat for 30 days and high quality, good meat, and it eliminated a lot of his problems. It's helped him with so much.
Because it puts you out, it messes up your hormones, it messes up a lot of different things like that. So there's a lot of things that are connected to that.
Or you mean the American diet is messing up hormones?
100%, yeah, sorry. So the American diet is just messing that up by that main means of the insulin resistance, which is causing havoc, let alone, that's just the effect of having high insulin, let alone the glyphosate and pesticides and GMO products and the effects that those are having as well. You add that on top of, but having high insulin, it causes people to gain weight very fast because that insulin is raised and it's just pulling and it's storing the unused glucose and it's storing it into fat cells. And what God made the body to where you can burn two kind of fuels. You can either burn glucose or you can burn ketones. And if you're on a carb-based diet, your body will always choose. If you have two things, carb or ketones, it will always choose to burn the fast fuel first. And so if you're on a carb-based diet, you're burning through all that fuel constantly, and it's going to give you the ups and downs, and the ketones will really settle that out.
For the average person listening who does not have the willpower to go full Ryan Rinaldo and just be like, I'm just going to stop eating everything except meat, and I'm going to do that now for 30 days. What would you suggest, like a good method, or maybe should they just cut back on carbs, or just try to eliminate carbs in their? Try to eliminate flour, try to eliminate sugar, try to eliminate one thing. Stick to meat, vegetables, and fruit, or, with maybe some nuts, or maybe they have one source of bread or something. What do you think?
That's where I like how Benjamin Bickman kind of discusses it, and he presents where prioritize protein, animal-based protein, have good healthy fats, and then have cleaner carbs, right? And have it in a minimum amount. So that way, some people don't want to go, all out, just carnivore and just cut out and go zero carb or anything like that. And, it's not, if someone doesn't want to do it, it's no big deal. But you can definitely improve your health by getting rid of the insulin resistance to start with. And that's by shifting from a high carb diet to high protein and fat diet and very minimal carbs, because that's where the United States is very unhealthy for the weight, right? We're one of the largest nations on earth,
right?
And we are pumping in carbs.
Obese, we're overweight, yeah.
Right, and like I was saying, the body can burn those two fuels, glucose or ketones, and if your body, you can't just go, I want to burn glucose and I want to burn ketones next, or tomorrow I want to burn glucose or I want to burn ketones. It takes a while for your body to stop choosing to burn that glucose and convert over to ketones.
How long does that take?
The exact amount of time, I think it's several days to get yourself truly into like
3 to 5 days or something.
Yeah, it takes, and if you do more intermittent fasting or anything like that, you can change. It depends on the speed of how many carbs, intermittent fasting.
You intermittent fast as well.
I do. I generally eat between 12 and 4, 12 and 5.
Each day.
Generally.
12 noon to 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
And then it ranges different days if we're going out somewhere or something like that. And
yeah, you don't it's the kid's birthday party, 7 o'clock we're eating. I'm not going to eat, because Ryan has been that strict in the past at certain times, but he basically flexes now on all kinds of stuff.
I got a family and you got to make sure it's feasible, right?
Totally.
But by saying I'm going to have a carb-based diet and I'm burning glucose, your body produces no carbs.
Right.
So this is why people have a carb crash and they're tired after, because if you're on a carb-based diet, you have to eat another carb from outside. You have to take something in to get you more carbs to convert to glucose and to burn it. Versus
that's why you have that craving.
That's why you have that craving.
Yeah.
Versus once you get into ketosis,
give me some bread, give me some pasta,
give me anything.
Give me some candy.
They always used to joke about we'd be at Disneyland or somewhere else,
chips.
And I would be hungry, and people used to call. I don't get hangry. I get quangry. I get quiet.
I'll
just sit there. And
right.
And then be like, someone get him a granola bar.
Right.
Shannon used to keep granola bars so I could get something. And then I'm back to I feel like normal.
Right.
But if you get into ketosis and you skip a meal, your body recognizes I'm hungry. So then it reverses the process and it takes the body fat and it converts it to ketones and you burn the ketones.
Got it.
And that's why then you have just a solid energy level because you're taking that ketone or that body fat and converting it to a ketone versus you're carrying all that with you. You have so much body fat on you that you have energy. You just need to let your body get into ketosis so you can start burning that.
Got it.
But the American diet doesn't let you do that.
Yeah.
You're constantly in a high insulin and in a glucose state.
Yeah. So you've added intermittent fasting to it. Again, eating in a 5-hour window. Again, very extreme in most people's minds. Like, wait a minute, Ryan, you only eat from 12 to 5, but how many calories are you putting away during that time?
I honestly don't calorie count.
Yeah. But you'll eat a giant ribeye.
I'll have a full ribeye. I'll have several eggs. Sometimes I'll have 2 ribeyes. It just really depends. But I try and get about 1 gram of protein for body weight.
Yeah. And then you're pretty much good from 5 till 12 the next day.
Yeah, I don't wake up and I don't feel like I'm craving or I don't feel these hunger pains. That's only because the body is able to pull the body fat and start burning that as fuel. I'm
kind of in a 12. I eat somewhere around 11, 12, and then I stop eating somewhere around like 7 to 8. And I have my meals basically within this 8-hour period or whatever. And then I go to sleep and basically don't eat breakfast and then wake up and start eating around lunch sometime. And working out in the morning and doing all of that. And my body may be crossing over into, into place of digestion simply because of the greens drink I take in the morning, or these kind of things protein shakes, those kind of stuff. But I'm basically in some form of fasting throughout that time. And then I'm kind of, again, I've done the carnivore, I've done the Whole30, I've done a lot of these things, but I sit somewhere in the, basically eating lots of meat of different types, minimal carbs, minimal flour, minimal sugar. I'm eating a piece of chocolate. I never eat the whole bag. I just don't want to. I'm going to eat a bowl of strawberries with some whipped cream, but I'm not, I can't eat half a gallon of ice cream. I'll grab a cone from time to time. I'm going to do a sweet coffee from time to time. But yeah, primarily meat, eggs, and then fruit and vegetables. So I kind of sit in that range, and it's worked out great.
And you fit within that window of Benjamin Bickman, where he says prioritize meat, have healthy fat, and then the third thing on the table should be fruit and vegetables, in the ratio. And that's what you're currently doing. And I think that's a phenomenal approach for majority of people, because that will keep you out of being insulin resistant, which is causing many other effects. But yeah, look up Benjamin Bickman and go through his process.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to manage this stuff as we get old. We're getting old. We're 41.
Yeah.
And, as we age, stuff doesn't work as well. And we want to have a quality of life while we're here on this earth.
And that's 100% it, quality of life. Because it's not being anxious over, I got to do this because I want to, change the appointed day that the Lord has for me. No, it's like when I'm here, and as I'm getting older, I want to be healthy and fit, being able to keep up with my kids. And that is in the same way you would put water in the gas tank, the car's just not going to run right.
Right.
And you can enjoy more of your abilities to a fuller effect by having it run properly. And
this is something that the Lord's given to us to steward, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we are to steward our health. We are to steward what he's given to us. And sadly, the American diet and education has really messed up a lot of people. It's not fair. It's not right that they've done this. And really, you have to start digging yourself, and you have to educate yourself, and you have to figure out to break through a lot of these things. Because if you grow up in a poor family, eating fast food all of your life, you don't understand anything about nutrients, and you can find yourself, your body depleted, and find yourself in a really terrible state simply because you were never educated in any of these things. Then you wake up one day and you're like, I want to eat healthy. What does that look like? I've been listening to that person, that group of people for a long time. Wait a minute, that's not good information. Like, why wasn't I told this? We ate everything under the sun growing up, especially through my early 20s. And I didn't wake up to what healthy eating and what a healthy lifestyle looked like probably till late 20s, early 30s,
Yeah.
And I was an athlete, and I thought I was getting all my, doing everything I was supposed to do, and I was way off.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because the medical community is not taught. Like, I genuinely believe doctors go in because they have a desire to want to do good and help people,
of course,
who are sick, right?
Yeah.
And they have that desire, but they don't realize that the schooling is really funded behind big pharma, where it's like, all right, well, they're not going to really focus on health and nutrition as far as from a nutritional standpoint of food as the medicine versus, hey, here's these pills, take this and all that. It's a profit game for that. And it's understandable. We're in a fallen world. There's greed, there's corruption, there's anything like that. Yep. And taking that into consideration and knowing that these doctors went to school and now they're so busy because of the way the medical system even works. It's like, all right, I got a patient in here. He's in there for 10 minutes. All right, next one. All right, next one. Then they get home and they're tired after a full day of work, and they don't have time to go through some of the new research that's out there and really kind of keep up until you really find a doctor who is like a Sean Baker or others who sit back and be like, man, I wasn't taught this. Mm-hmm. And once they find out something down this road, that's where, boom, then they go through a whole nother series of education and really going through the nutritional side. And now you can partner them up because medicine is great when it's needed.
Right.
But many times it's given when it's not needed, and the medicine you need to fix is the food.
Right.
And you can really make improvement by just diet.
Yeah, I know a doctor owned a couple practices, and I remember asking him about this specifically. And again, this isn't all doctors, but it's a lot of doctors.
Yeah.
He says, I was just like, what about nutrition? What should I eat? What should I not eat? What should I do? And he's like, I wasn't trained in nutrition. Just said it straight up. I'm trained in medicine. And so I type in things, I know a lot of things through learning about medicine, and I type in diagnosis and it pops out medications and prescriptions and things that I need to give to you to help you fix that problem or put a Band-Aid on that problem. But to try to fix that underlying problem comes through nutrition and health. And even though the doctor knows that, he can't exactly oftentimes help you in those categories because that's not the field of study that he spent his life studying. He studied medicine and procedures, and that is his world. And he knows that, and he's been honest about that. And so, but would even help me dig into nutrition and try to help understand those things as well. But sadly, again, a lot of people don't know this. The first time I woke up to this was Katie's grandfather, who was an engineer for Boeing. He's a really smart guy, but also he studied nutrition and chemistry specifically. And he used to tell us these wild things. He'd be like, if you mix, flaxseed oil with cottage cheese, there's a chemical exchange that takes place that can heal part of stomach cancer. I'm looking at him like, what are you talking about? Who says this kind of stuff? But his engineer mind was mixing with his nutritionist mind and the chemistry from the back end. And he basically would tell us all of these different ways to strengthen ourselves, to keep ourselves away from cancer. And he lived to be like 91, 92. And he is the same grandpa who, at 60 years old, started investing, and by 90 years old had made millions through gold and silver and all of these other dividend investments that we had talked about and explored. But and he would always, send a little bit of information from here to there. But back to the point, it's amazing how much information is available now.
Yeah.
And people can go out and do a lot of research. Can't trust everything, of course. Bounce these things off people, have conversations before making any type of big decision for your life. But these things are starting to become common knowledge, that it's like the food pyramid that has been talked about, that we were in public school, is the worst thing ever created. Worst thing ever created. That grains and carbs and all of these things should be the foundation of your diet is a big no-no.
Yeah. And it's understanding that there's, Proverbs says one side of the story sounds good until you've heard the other side. And the mainstream narrative, just give the other side a voice, and give them time to hear that out. And realize too that there's studies that are on both sides of the camp. You have to then go through the work and find out, okay, well, which one is correct? Because we're in a fallen world. Corruption even happens in scientific studies, right? There's things that, there was a study they were trying to disprove about meat and how it clouds your blood with, just through the process. And well, they don't tell you that what in that study they gave people meat burritos. And then, and so after this, there was all these carnivore doctors online. They were like, this is ridiculous. So then some of them even went into labs and live did, and recorded their own blood work getting done, and it's just clean and all that. It's like, well, yeah, it's because you were misleading with the study by, we did meat only, but no, it was a burrito. You get tortillas and all this other stuff in with that. So it takes wisdom. It takes work, right? And that's what's a bummer, is it takes labor to sift through the information, but do what is producing results. Like if you're going to a doctor and it's clearly this doctor doesn't look healthy, then go somewhere where at least the person.
Should be the obvious, right?
It should be. So go and find somewhere where the doctor at least takes it to where he's able to produce and have some results himself or herself.
Actually lives out.
Correct. And then pursue it and know that it is really the chemistry that is involved there. And when they're giving you a pill to take and eat, you're literally eating a pill that's just going to change this chemical process in your body. Well, you're doing the same thing with food. So that's why we should see food as medicine as well.
Yes. Eat the right food and don't eat the bad stuff.
Don't eat the bad stuff.
And honestly, we are to steward this as Christians who love the Lord, for his glory. We really are to steward it well so that we can be highly effective in everything that we do.
Yeah.
Be highly effective in our work, be highly effective in our marriage, be highly effective with our kids, in discipleship, in the church, really everything that we do. Because if the foundation of your life, your health is messed up, it literally hinders all of those things, right? It stops us from being able to minister and to serve at a high level.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize that in the same way that the sinful world and the enemy wants to get people unfit spiritually, it also benefits by, having the other side as you're unfit physically, and you compare that up and realizing that it's a battle to stay on both of these fronts.
It's sad that we even have to combat this, because you just rewind even like 70 years ago, you go back to pictures like in the 30s, 40s, 50s, pictures of people on the beat. There's literally not one person. They're all just, they're not even, I don't even want to call it in shape, because it was just the norm. Like everybody you wouldn't see anyone out of shape, or you wouldn't see anyone overweight. It just didn't exist because the food wasn't messed up yet.
Correct. They had a hamburger with the buns, but
it was fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. You can still go to other countries and you can, eat all the bread you want, or you can eat, Italy, you go around eating all these crazy things and all these beautiful meals and all that. And I don't know, somehow you end up losing weight when you're out there on vacation. It's really amazing that food is so clean.
Because many of those places do have restrictions on what they can put within that. So it's like, putting glyphosate and weed killer on this stuff, putting the pesticides, putting the seed oils. There's a lot of things that aren't allowed in other countries that are allowed here that is making this product.
Yeah, even the surface digs that, we've done over the years, just like, from water to the air we breathe to all of the, your food sits in a package for 2 or 3 years on a shelf in some warehouse, and then it goes to a store and you buy that and you're eating that thing. You would never eat something that sat on a shelf for 2 years, collected dust and who knows what. But it's there and it's happening. And so it's sad that we have to even think through all of this stuff, that it almost seems there is an attack on our health and our food and all of this stuff. And so I don't know, I've seen you alert the brothers on a lot of these things and try to help and encourage the brothers to take notice of their health, to really dig in and make sure, the brothers are staying healthy, so that we can steward what God has given to us well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You are also have a knack for investing and finance, and really dug into this world. When did all this start?
This started, 2000. So after I had got on the fire department, now I'm making, went from not making really any good money. I used to work at a steel yard to working at the fire department and making better money. And I think I was maybe a year or two in. And they're like, hey, you need to buy a house. Like, that's just a good, that's what you do. That's a good investment.
Yeah.
And I bought it, I think it was the end of 2007 or 8, somewhere right around that time frame. Yep. And then the housing market crashed right after.
Right.
And I was just like, wait, like I thought this was a good investment.
Right.
And so it really opened my eyes to wanting to find out, well, what took place, and seeing that history has these booms and busts. All right, well, what's causing that? So then I went down this road of what's causing it. And then it took me down the road of learning the monetary system, about how is our money created? Who creates it? What is it? And where does it come from? And that's when I come to find out about the Federal Reserve, which most people, if you were to ask the average person, like, what is the Federal Reserve? And they're going to think, oh, or who controls it? Oh, the federal government controls the Federal Reserve. No, it's not federal, and it has no reserves. It's like the UPS being a government. No, it's private. It's a private corporation that was funded and started in 1913 off, I believe, Georgia on Jekyll Island by some international bankers. And those guys, instituted a central bank in the United States. And central banks aren't new. There was central banks over in Europe and in other countries that were also before the United States. You can think of people like Rothschilds and all that kind of stuff. Those are international bankers. And they control the money system. And so they came to the United States, and we've had many disagreements between the founding fathers of having a central bank. They say the day in which you institute a central bank, that's that bad news for the country. You can go back to the founding fathers and their view of a central bank, and it's eye-opening. But you have this group of international bankers that created the Federal Reserve in 1913, and they say, all right, well, we will create the money, and then they give it to the government, and the debt is owed to them, and yet they can sit there and they have this endless ability to create money because it's just, there's nothing there.
Printed out of thin air.
Yeah, it used to be backed by gold. That's what gave it its value.
Every single dollar backed by some gold, which gave it its value.
Correct. You had a 1 ounce gold coin, and you used to be able to walk into a bank with a $20 bill and say, I would like to take this 20. It's a claim ticket, and I would like for you to give me my gold that the bank's holding
back.
So it's like walking into a bank or into a cleaner's, and you gave them your Armani suit to clean. What are they going to give you? A claim ticket. Come back and show us this with the numbers, and we'll give you back your suit.
Right.
Because the suit is what's valuable, not the claim ticket. Well, the gold is what's valuable. The dollar was just a currency. The gold is the money. The paper dollar was the currency.
Right. And
go into the bank, give them a $20 bill and say, I would like my money back. And they would give you your gold. Well, in 1970, they went off of that gold standard, and you no longer would walk into the bank and give that 20 and get your gold. It was decoupled from there. Now, Henry Kissinger made a wonderful deal with the Saudis and said, all right, well, what we'll do is you have all this oil, and we have need of it, but we'll only buy from you if you will only sell oil globally in the US dollar.
Right.
So we went from this agreement behind gold, and we then connected it to oil. So it was in the petrodollar, and you can look that up and go through a history of the petrodollar. They backed it by oil. And so we've always had a global need for dollars, because if Iran wanted oil or if Brazil wanted oil, they had to go and convert their currency into dollars, then go buy oil. So it always had a demand for dollars.
So it backed the US dollar.
It backed it. Yeah, it gave something valuable. Again, the valuable was the oil, and the other was just the claim ticket. But what you don't realize is that with the Federal Reserve, they can continue to create more currency into the system. And so it's like, think of at a Monopoly board game, you're just sitting there, and we all are sitting around this table, and we all have a set amount of currency. Well, it's a fair game, right? Because we can each, whoever has currency can buy a house, or I want to buy that, I'll buy that from you. But what if there's 5 of us around this table, and Ryan, are sitting over here, and I actually have a printer here, and I'm printing me new Monopoly dollars. And I then bring it to the table, and I say, hey, I want to buy your property. And well, I'm buying it, and I'm willing to pay even more because I have the extra currency. Well, I'm devaluing the currency that is being held by everybody else at the table.
Right.
That currency makes its way into the system and eventually spreads to other people, and then they have more currency. But I'm the one that benefits from it because I get to come in at the prices that were before that currency got to come into the system. And so then I buy whatever I want to, and that's where then it then inflates the prices.
Right.
And so that's why today, that gold coin that I said in 1930, you used to walk into a bank for a $20 bill. Today, if you want to buy that same gold coin, again, this is not a different gold coin, it's the same gold coin.
You used to be able to buy it for $20.
Today, it's almost $2,000
$2,000
to buy the same. Did the gold coin change? No. What changed? The amount of currency that has come into the system
and printed
has been created or printed. And even saying the word printed, because not everything is physical dollars. Sure. Only, I think it's somewhere around 4%, 5% are physical dollars.
Got it.
The rest are ones and zeros that are on a computer.
They just hit
They can
enter.
just enter. Well, every time our system is made by debt. So if you want to go do a loan for a boat, you go to the bank and say, well, give me a loan. And they're going to, just with keystrokes, put the $10,000 for the boat into your account. They didn't take that $10,000 from someone else's account. They just created that money ex nihilo, out of nothing, and put it into your account. Right. So they're inflating the money supply of that there. At the same time, though, they're increasing the debt. So you have this tension of debt, but then the amount of units of debt that are going around that people are using to buy stuff. And that's where the Federal Reserve was a fractional reserve bank. You would think if I take $100 and deposit that into the bank, that bank's there. I can always walk in and at any time I can say, hey, give me my $100. The banks are legally allowed to take your money and loan it to someone else. And they're supposed to have a fraction and keep it on in case you want to come and get some of your money. So of that $100 that comes in, they can sit there and say, all right, I'll loan out 90 to then Josh, who wants to go get, a loan for a house. So now I'm still on the books for $100 that I deposited.
Right.
But you now have 90 of those dollars going out buying a car that you then owe the bank. So now there's $190 on the ledger.
Right.
But there's only $100 in existence.
Right.
Right. Well, then your $90 you bought the car goes to that guy who then wants to take it to the bank and then go buy something else. Well, then he deposits that into the bank and they give him, right? So you just see how this compounds.
Right.
And if you want a really good visual picture of this process, there's a video called Hidden Secrets of Money, episode 4. Highly recommend it. It's like 30 minutes long. It'll give you a wonderful visual presentation of this. But that's what's happening is this Federal Reserve is legally allowed to hold just a fraction. And this is what caused the bank runs in like 1930 of banks when they held fractions. If there was a scare on the bank and everyone's like, I want my money, and everyone runs to the bank, even if just us two run to the bank at the same time.
Right.
I want my $100. You want your $90. There's only 100 physical dollars.
Right.
Right. But yet on the ledger, it's 190.
Yeah.
There's a problem there.
They're able to take that $100 and lend it out to like 10 people now.
Yeah. And there's some banks that there isn't even a reserve requirement. So it can go down to zero. So
they're allowed again, that splicing out, that parsing out of that $100, they're able to, print it out of thin air and create these debts or these loans and do this for lots of people. And what ends up happening is now the bank has overprinted or over lent out that money. And the money doesn't actually exist there. It's not there. So when the person goes back to get their $100, they say, sorry, we actually lent it out to one person times 10. And we can't get that money back for you. We need them to pay back their loans, and then we'll be able to get you back your money. And so now if a bunch of people go to try to get their money out of the bank at a certain time, that creates the bank run, like what you said in the 30s. And it's happened a couple times, right?
Many times. Yeah, absolutely. And that is an actual credit issue of where, it's like, well, you don't have my funds. Well, they can either, and this is where they can default one of two ways. The government can default on saying, I owe you your money, or the banks, I should say, not really the government, but I owe you your money. And I can either default by saying, I don't have it. Sorry, I blew it. I was foolish and I risked it and it's lost.
Right.
That's a true default. And they just say, sorry, I don't have your money. A different default that governments will always choose to do this in banks, is they default by saying, okay, I don't have your money, hold on. Print. Here's your money. I owed you $100, here's your money. But what they don't tell you is that they just increased the money supply to pay back your money. But what they did is they stole from you through purchasing power. Because now the eggs you want to go buy, it costs twice as much. The house you want to go buy, it costs twice as much. The whatever items you want to do are now more expensive because they sat there and created all this new money to say, all right, boom, here you go.
And that's the problem we're in now.
It is.
That's why gas is so much. That's why eggs are so much. That's why milk is so much. That's why, all the groceries are through the roof. Everything is costing more. Inflation's through the roof. And it's because they keep printing, and they have been doing so for a long time. And to circle back, full question, how did you get into investing? Say you started to research money the foundation of how all this was created. And one interesting thing you pointed out, it's like, if you would have put your money in a hard asset that does not change, or even 30, 40, 50 years ago, or you found that gold coin for $20 and you held it all this time, it would be worth $2,000 now, even though everything else has gone up in price exponentially and dollars have been printed. Your gold still seems to hold value.
Yeah, because the gold is an asset. It is maintaining. Like, gold isn't producing anything. It's not making me money. What it's doing is it's preserving my purchasing power. So back in the 30s, you can go buy a fancy suit for $20. You know, today you can go buy a nice fancy suit for $2,000, like a nice one, and it maintained the purchasing power. Right. You're not getting rich off of it.
The same gold coin would have worked in both scenarios.
Both scenarios.
But now, if you're using dollars, you need 20 or you need 2,000.
If you have an abundance of currency, then the things that are real, the real assets, the items you need, are going to become more expensive because the currency is just being increased.
So how did this push you into investing, or you started to educate yourself?
I came down the road of gold and silver and understanding what that is, and then I came into understanding of investing in the mining companies behind that, and just realizing that everything we use, whether is either farmed or mined. If we eat it, it's farmed. If we wear it, it's farmed. If we use it, the table, every object is either farmed or mined.
Wow.
And so
all of these materials that make up this microphone,
all the materials,
is all mined from somewhere.
It's from a mine somewhere.
Anything we eat or anything we wear has been farmed from somewhere.
Yeah. So in that moment,
this is the foundation of the product.
Of civilization, yeah. And realizing that since these go through cycles of, there's a plethora. If you have a oversupply of something, right? So if there was so many homes in 2008 that then all of a sudden it's like the prices drop. Well, now you had after the crash, you had people wanting to sell, right? And that's the oversupply of a product pushes the price down.
Right.
Well, same for anything. Of any material, if there's an oversupply, the prices change. If there's an undersupply, the prices change. And that is what drives these booms and little busts within these little sectors. Right. And so I understood that.
You started to see the market.
Yeah, and I can make money off of that. Instead of just sitting and holding gold, I can actually invest in the mining company that's actually producing that gold.
Yes,
and
mining gold.
If gold goes up by 2x, the mining company is going to go up by 5x, right? So it's understanding that.
Yeah, and long story short, by the grace of God, we took a risk on some mining companies. I don't even remember what year this was.
I believe it was like 2013 or 14 or somewhere around there.
Yeah, we took a risk on these mining companies and just, again, bought a ton of stock in these bunch of different companies. And they ended up 3Xing in like, what was it?
It was like
six or 7 months.
Yeah, 6 or 8 months, something like that.
And me and Ryan are sitting there like at the coffee shop or whatever, like, do we sell? What do we do? Do we sell? What do we, I think we should do that. I think it's time. Should we do this? And we hit the sell button and we end up selling on that day and walk away thinking like, how in the world did that work? Right? Kind of a pretty sweet taste for a win there. And basically you had already been on some of that journey, obviously researching and figuring out the markets and trying to figure all this out. And this one's just so happened to hit a home run.
Yeah. And just, you can make money in any industry of mining. And so, yeah, that just sparked my interest and I went down that mining road and I've been doing it ever since that time period. And I've gotten, significantly heavier involved in that. And yeah, whether it be
a laser focus on it.
Yeah, whether it be copper, uranium, gold, silver, any kind of mining product.
And you have a knack for it too, because it's like your brain is bent towards that way and really wanting to consume and understand, and really have been a help to a lot of the brothers and sisters, and just trying to almost like this is not legal advice, but some form of off-the-cuff, blue-collar, financial advisor to a lot of us, or investing, just like, hey, Ryan, what do you think about this? It's a good idea? What do you think? We're like constantly bouncing off, trying to, because this is another part of life that, we have to think through. We have to manage what has been given to us and steward it well. And again, whether or not someone is able to multiply in wealth or not, just to be able to take care of the resources that God has given them and take care of their family and steward that well. You know, if a man doesn't provide for his family, he's worse off than a non-believer, the text says, you know. And so, you know, the Proverbs is full of wisdom on managing things and being resourceful. And, you know, self-control is so important in managing finances and discipline. And really, that's what it comes down to.
And I think that it's Christians should, well, first off, the why of people should be interested in this. It's
good.
Should we? I don't think we should have to. It's a bummer that we have to, but because of how the money's system works, I should be able to just go and be a fireman, and any money that I make, I shouldn't have to worry that it's going to be debased through inflation and I'm going to be stolen from that. Right? I should be able to just focus on my job. If I'm a doctor, focus on being a doctor. If I'm doing whatever, I should be able to focus on that and not have to go down this other road of I have to also be my own financial advisor or hire a financial advisor. But I have to because of the way the money system works. It's
what Ryan's
stealing.
saying is we're being stolen from because if he makes $100 as a firefighter, there is no promise that it will be worth $100 in 5 years.
It's a guarantee it won't be worth $5.
It'll only be worth 70. And then another, 5 years from then, and 10 years later, it'll only be worth $50. And it'll keep going down. Now it's only worth $25. And so the same dollar that you worked for 100 gets basically diminished over long term because, again, the value of the dollar is going down long term, as we said, as they keep printing more and more and more, so the value goes down. Yeah. You have less purchasing power. So you've been saving money to try to purchase a house. You're working all of these hours to get your down payment, and you've been saving, but slowly behind the scenes, you don't even know it. Your down payment is going down.
So take before COVID. If someone was sitting and like, man, I'm prudent, I did well, and I have $100,000 in the bank before COVID, and I'm sitting there, and I want to buy a house, and I have $100,000 in the bank for that down payment. Well, after COVID, as the responsive to stimulus, because everyone stopped working, all that, the government had to actually give out money, stimulus checks to keep the economy going, or else that amount of debt that's there would have collapsed, right? But to keep it inflated and to keep it going, they had to create money and give it away. Well, that $100,000, your account has never changed. But the housing prices from before COVID to now some areas have doubled. Some are up, 15, 20, 50%. I mean, on average, they're probably closer to, in the 50% range. And that $100,000 is still the same $100,000 you had, but it can purchase so much less than what you thought you could.
Yep.
And that is why then leads to the second point on why I think Christians should care. Because a lot of people that have the knowledge, they own a lot of assets. So they'll sit and own gold, or they'll have housing, or they'll have investments or whatever. Those inflate and continue to rise as the money continues to grow. So they're being insulated. They're being protected from the inflation that is happening, right? Because their assets are going up in value.
Right.
The reason Christians should care about how this works is because, well, I'm benefiting from that, but the person down the road who doesn't have assets is being stolen from because of how our money system works.
Right.
They are sitting there, and now what one father used to be able to go out and be the sole worker, now it takes two of the parents to go and be a worker,
right, to
actually do the cost of living, because now eggs are more expensive, the house is more expensive, all of that is more expensive, and they don't know that the issue is it's the money system, and they're like, why is it going like this? Why am I not able to get ahead in life? It's because the money system is they are just continually inflating the prices through this, adding more currency units into the system, and you have no idea that that's happening. And the Christian this whole view of the scriptures talk about unjust weights and measures, right? The very money that we're holding is an unjust weight of, it's stealing from other people. Now, I don't have to feel it because I'm not stealing from them, but it's the system itself. And we need to show and shed light on, hey, this system is this is what's happening. And we need to force them to go back to something that holds that currency to either something that is of a value that puts a restraint on that currency, or to something entirely different. And so that's why I think Christians need to care about this.
They need to care about this so that they can start anchoring their money into things that grow in value instead of losing value.
That, and for the love of your neighbor who may be ignorant that it's happening, and they don't know that they're being stolen from.
Help them.
And they'll be like, well, I don't really care about that stuff. I don't need to know. Well, if you love your neighbor as yourself, counting them more than you, knowing they don't even know that that they're being stolen from. It's a secret theft. It's a hidden theft.
Right.
And CPI CPI inflation of what they say, oh, this is what the average, it's 2% annually is what inflation is annually. They don't include energy costs. They don't include fuel and food. They don't include all the things you actually need. They don't include housing costs in CPI. And they also don't include taxes, which is the greater percentage of all those combined. So they don't even include that in the formula of CPI. They include like TVs and like consumer price index is what that stands for.
So what is putting all of that together, what is inflation really look like per year?
I mean, I would argue it's significantly over 10. Some people say 10 to 20%.
Wow.
Like over the last 4 years, houses have doubled in price. Gas has gone. Look at the percentages of that, and it's different because a person who needs a house, that inflation hits them harder than a person who already owns one.
Right.
A person who needs those things, they're hit harder.
So I want to get into some practical steps and practical ways that we can help answer this solution for a lot of people listening. I want to bring in one other asset, though, into the table, Bitcoin. We got to bring one other asset in the table. We plunged into crypto and really started to try to navigate that world and understand it. I would say pretty early on, I think
it was early 2015.
Yeah, and really trying to figure a lot of that out and trying to understand it. I remember when you had said something to me about the coin, and I'm just like, what in the world is this? Some digital, invisible, something, that floats out in the middle of nowhere. What are we even talking about? Like, I understand a bank pushing a one, and enter into my account, $1 shows up in there. But what is this Bitcoin thing, and like, what is cryptocurrency? And so anyways, way back when, really started to get into this, and started educating as fast as you could, trying to get on the front lines of that. And that has caused, obviously, a lot of great investments, a lot of great wins, a lot of great heartache, and a lot of great losses. But it's a really interesting asset that is emerging, or has emerged, that seems to be here to stay, and seems to be one that many call the digital gold. And they say it that way because gold has seemed to hold its value through the centuries, through thousands of years. It's held and now we have a digital form of that. It kind of has the attributes of it. What is the journey into that? How did you come to it? And thoughts on Bitcoin?
Yeah, I came across it early 2015, I believe. It was $200 a coin. It's now at 30,000. But so early 2015,
$200 a coin. So now it's 30,000 a coin. It peaked at something like 65,000, 70,000.
It was like 69,000 a coin. Drop. Yeah, I've seen it.
But it was at $200 a coin.
Correct. And so
if you bought one coin for $200, that coin would be worth 70,000.
Yeah. And then in the crash right now, which we're at I believe at the end of a bear market, it's still 30,000.
If you took the $200 in your dusty drawer and bought one Bitcoin, it would be worth $30,000 right now.
Yeah.
And how long? And that
was 2015.
So that was just within 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
You would make $30,000 off $200.
Yeah. And that comes from the principles behind it, which we can get into, but it came across.
Let's say that. Why is this so taboo in the Christian world? First off, what is it? We've talked to so many Christians about this.
One, I think there's a lot of wrong thinking when it comes to. I remember handing a book to someone called "Inventing Bitcoin" by Jan Pritzker. I highly recommend it. to a guy at work, and his wife brought it back, or told him to bring it back to work, and he came back the next tour and handed it to me. He's like, my wife won't let this in the house. She says it's the mark of the beast.
Yeah, it's the devil,
right? It's this global currency. So it's
that's true. It's interesting.
Yeah, but so that's one thought process. Maybe some Christians go down the road. The other is society's done a really good job of making it seem like this is only used by criminals and those people who want to sell drugs on Silk Road and all that kind of stuff. So it has had a stigma to it, but so did the internet when it first started, right? A lot of criminals do use the newest technology that's coming out, and they use it because they need to be ahead of what law enforcement, all that's doing. But that has been shown to be incorrect. So I would just say, why is it some people struggled with it? A lot of those things are in their mind of thinking that this is bad, and they haven't done the work to really find out, hey, those questions have been answered, and it's a real asset class, and you need to look at it.
That large institutions are looking at and purchasing right now.
Well, one of the big reasons why I think a lot of people will be forced to actually look at this is because the largest asset managers on planet Earth within the last few months have entered the space and showing that they're interested. So BlackRock, who manages nearly $10 trillion of assets, Vanguard, State Street, there's several, and Charles Schwab, Fidelity, they've all entered the space, and they've applied to handle Bitcoin. So the narrative is going to shift soon. It's happening. But what triggered me is because I already knew the principles of gold, and so when Bitcoin came across the table and like, hey, here's these properties, it has the properties of gold, but then a couple other ones because it's digital and whatnot, and so it connected faster for me of why this is needed.
Right.
And so I jumped into crypto at the same time, made a good amount of money, bad money as well, but that's the crypto. I have shifted from there and realizing, hey, okay, you have to first sit back, and there is a difference between Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin is sound money, and it is a protocol. It's a decentralized protocol that is building on top of itself. It sits on the internet, and it's a ledger system, in essence, is what it is. That Federal Reserve, we don't know how many units are in the system because they just keep ones and zeros. They're just
printing more.
Create more. It's an unlimited cap of what they can put units into the system. Well, Bitcoin is cryptographic code that says, here's these rules cryptographically that we abide by as a Bitcoin protocol. And you can think Bitcoin capital B, that's the protocol, and then Bitcoin little b, and that's the actual coin of Bitcoin that sits on top of that protocol. And the protocol is a decentralized ledger. So let's say that we have 100.
That means no one controls it.
No one controls it because it's decentralized. If there was one ledger and you gave me $1,000,
there's no one bank on the planet that controls it.
Correct. No one. And there's not a single person that controls Bitcoin versus one person, one group entity controls the Federal Reserve. That's why they can create more money at a keystroke.
Yes.
But no one controls Bitcoin because it's decentralized.
Yes.
And so, and the code is written. So it now abides by the code. And if I were to have a ledger between you and me, and I say, oh, Josh gave me $1,000, and then I take it to the bank, well, they'd give me a loan on that $1,000 ledger. Well, what if I go and I write another zero, and I can go and be like, oh, well, he gave me $10,000, right? I can cook the books, is how it used to be termed.
Right.
But today, with Bitcoin, it's a decentralized ledger that is continuously maintained by the network. So picture 100 pieces of paper and it's magical, where the moment you write anything on it, all 100 pieces show at the same time what it is.
It's a digital receipt that shows up worldwide. If I give Ryan $100, the whole world sees it, and it's documented in that moment.
Correct. And if I go to add a zero, and I then go to show the system, all right, well, I actually have $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, all the other 99 ledgers say, no, you don't. That's a lie.
The whole world knows that it's not 1,000. They know it's 100.
Correct.
So there's no riffraff.
Correct. So it's decentralized so that it can't be controlled. It's fixed, meaning there's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be in existence.
Period.
You can never add more.
You can't print another one.
Correct. Now, people say, oh, there's only 20 million. There's not enough to go around. Well, each one Bitcoin is divisible by 100 million parts. So think of a $100 bill. Oh, there's not enough $100 bills to go around. Okay, well, let's break it down to 50s. Well, let's break it down to 20s. We can go all the way down to pennies. Well, a Bitcoin can break down more times than a dollar, than that. So
to a fraction of a penny.
Oh, it's fractions of a penny.
But the point being is there's only 21 million, period.
The issue is you want to have, it doesn't matter how many times you slice it up, you don't want to keep adding to the amount of pieces that you can continue slicing up.
Devalues
That's the issue.
Yes.
There's a cap on it and it's sealed, and you can't add more than 21 million units to this system. And so that means that as more value comes into the system, if I'm holding 1 unit of the 21 million, as more value comes in, there's now more demand for that 1 unit, which means, well, I'm not going to sell it to you today for 30,000. I'll sell it to you in a couple of years from now for a couple $100,000 if you want this Bitcoin, but you're not going to get it today. So as value comes in, that rises, and it's volatile only because of that value goes in and out of it.
Yes, very quickly.
Just like houses, right? Like the market goes up, goes down. That's just how much is coming in and out.
Eventually, it's going to stabilize.
It will, and the volatility is not something that we need to be afraid of. The volatility is because of the size of the market, the liquidity that's there.
Right.
If the liquidity is $100 million, and I come in and I am super wealthy and I own $50 million worth of Bitcoin and I sell $50 million, well, that's half the liquidity.
That would
just crash because now there's not enough buyers to absorb that liquidity.
Right, crashes the value.
Well, if it is
price.
Correct, crash the price. So, but if that market, as the value goes and that market cap grows to $1 trillion, and then I sell $50 million, you won't even, it would barely be a ripple.
Not as big of a hit.
It would just be, it'd be tiny in comparison. And so liquidity is actually good because it gives you entry points to get in while it's small.
Yes.
And as it gets bigger, the liquidity will diminish.
Yes.
So you don't be afraid of liquidity. It could be a liquidity due to some other reason, but don't let the liquidity scare you away just inherently, because. But that's just the size of the market right now.
Yeah, the volatility is an opportunity. Because just like there was a time when Bitcoin was $200, and it fell down in that price, and if you would have just purchased 5 of those for $1,000, then 5 times 30,000 today, you'd have 150 grand sitting right there. And the projections are that Bitcoin will continue to rise as big money and the money of the world continues to pour into these 21 million total coins. So the money goes in, the value of those coins just keep going up. And as $1 trillion go in, then 2 trillion, then 5 trillion, then 10 trillion, you have all this money pouring into this digital gold of value, stored value, an asset that is holding its value long term. It's just going to keep going through the roof. And so that is why, yes, you have gold, you have silver, you have real estate, you have classic cars, you have these things that hold value. Bitcoin has been a new asset that has shown up on the planet that seems to store value, do it really well. It's digital, the transaction is fast, it seems to be safe and tracked by the whole world all at the same time, and it is going up in value long term. And so this is why we talk about it so much.
Yeah, and the protocol can see it, but it doesn't mean the fact that they can necessarily track you individually. They're building layers on top that are adding privacy protocols to that, and so because someone can sit back, well, that is going to be the mark of the beast because they'll be able to, you can see everything on there. Well, there's no name to a Bitcoin.
Right.
As long as I hold what they call a seed key, I control that Bitcoin.
Right.
No one sees that. Sure, if I then do things, they can see who's using that, but they're adding layers on top that are adding privacy protocols to help with that. And so, but Bitcoin itself it's a system that is allowing for an honest money to actually come back into play. We're not going to go back to gold because the issue with gold is it gets centralized into Fort Knox. So now there's a central entity, and now they can actually start saying, all right, well, these claim tickets we can put against this gold because we're in control of the gold.
Right.
And we don't even know how much gold is even in there, but we do know that there's several, like over 100 claim tickets per ounce of gold that is out there. So we know that even if you ran to go get your physical gold, you wouldn't get it all. So it's not, even that isn't an honest system, because you're not going to carry around gold bars in your pocket. It's just too cumbersome. So Bitcoin took the attributes of gold and then added other things to enable it to be a digital form. And society is going to continue to move and progress forward digitally. And you need something that has that characteristics of sound, solid, trustworthy money that can then be used in that digital world. And that's just talking about the Bitcoin B, the little b.
Right.
It's still a protocol in which other things can be built on top of, think of the internet, the amount of things that got built with the internet.
Right. The internet is the big B.
Yeah. People are watching us through live stream on the protocol of the internet. They're sending emails. They have businesses and shops and all the stuff that's
all built on the
all
platform.
Built on top. There's going to be other things that are built on top of Bitcoin, because you can't censor it. You can't stop it. And you can't, because it's decentralized globally around the world, where you have to get control of 51% of all mining rigs to then say, I want to change the rule. So you have to get control of 51% of physical miners, which is a massive feat. Once you get control of those 51, you have to exert and spend money in this proof of work system of this cost of energy. And once you do that, you can submit a rule change if you did all this, right? So now there's this huge cost, even through the physical hardware and through producing it, through the energy that you got to pay for. Now I'm going to submit a rule change. Okay, great. You did that. Well, now you have to get over 51% of all of the nodes that are running globally. And a node is just any computer that is running the Bitcoin software. So it's like downloading Windows 7 on your computer, and I'm running the software, which is just the rules of the Bitcoin blockchain. And so now you have to go and get, you can have them on, if you have 3 computers at home, you can have them running all 3. There's no really cost to it. And so now you have to go get 51% of all those nodes globally. There's tons of it, and it's growing. You're
basically building that picture to so it is pretty much an impossibility.
Yeah. This is, from a biblical perspective, what's awesome is when you think of Scripture, what I believe, and this was kind of mind-blowing for me when I came to see the value of decentralization based on Bitcoin, was Scripture. People are like, well, why don't we have like the one Bible? Like, why don't we have the one Bible? And it's like, we would know that that's it. Well, if one entity control just one copy of the Bible, how do you know that they haven't tampered with it? How do you know it's really it, right? Versus, and it could be censored. Someone could get that and actually keep it from you.
Right.
Because there's only one.
There was only one Bible.
But the Lord said, no, I'm speaking to you, Paul. And then he took that letter and he copied it in a church, copied it in a church, copied it in a church, copied it in a church. And he just, that original copy got copied many times over.
Right.
And then a second person came and copied those and then copied again. And the Bible was decentralized from the start.
Right.
Can no government ever stop the Bible? Because it's decentralized. You will never squash out all the copies of the Bible, because it was, and especially in the early church, it was under persecution. Made a copy, they ran, they buried it in the dirt, they hid it in a tunnel, they did all that. And it was just God's way of saying, I'm preserving my word through human means. And it was hidden all over.
It's pretty crazy.
And it's decentralized. And you can actually trust it too, because if you have the original, if you're Paul and I make a copy and I made my copy, and then you go into another country or another region and he makes a copy and so forth, I can know that what I have is reliable, because the difference is, this is where textual criticism comes into play. This isn't the telephone game. You made a copy, or you wrote the original, and then I made a copy, and then the second one's right after me, and then the third and fourth. So it's not one line of transmission. It was a broad transmission. It was just many lines. And then they go down. So now I can go, all right, well, these parchments that were dug up here, and compare them to these over here, they have nothing to do with each other, and compare them, and now I see that there's no critical differences between these. They're like grammatical difference, because this guy copied it and misspelled a word or put a punctuation in the wrong area, whatever, this guy. So you now can compare that. This decentralization is what enables you to realize they can't stop it. you actually know what's truly there because someone couldn't, I got control of 50% of the copies. Well, that's okay because the other 50% are going to show you have an issue.
Right.
Bitcoin is sitting there going, it's decentralized. You can't censor it because you have to take control of the whole network, over 51% of the network, and you can't make up your own rules. You can't change it. You can trust math. That's why you can trust Bitcoin to always do what it's going to do. You pull out your phone, open up a calculator, 2 + 2 always equals 4.
Right.
Why? You trust that. Why? Because the code is written on that calculator to always do that. It lives by the code. Bitcoin is code. You're not trusting humans anymore. You're trusting math. And it's decentralized, so that way it's not being controlled by an entity. What they're going to come out with soon is called central bank digital currencies, and that's where the bank gives out digital currency.
Which they're already trying to do,
They're already trying to do, and they're going to be doing it very soon, but they are introducing central bank currency that is on a blockchain, and those they can watch everything you do. They can program the money. They can say, oh, well, if you donate to this, your account's turned off. Or if we deposit money into your account, you only have 30 days to spend it. They can program that money via the blockchain. So that would be the money I don't want.
So, yeah. So you heard it here first. If the Federal Reserve comes out with their own digital currency, you'll know why.
Exactly.
Let's go from a practical angle. There are a lot of people listening saying, okay, that was a lot of information and awesome information. I'm going to have to go back and listen to that a second time. But what can I do practically with my $100 that I have to help it to hold value long term, whether it be gold, silver, real estate, classic cars, Bitcoin? What do I do with these dollars so that it remains $100 in 10 years and it actually can still have the same purchasing power? Like, what practical things can I do in my life to start investing if I don't have a single investment or I don't even know where to start?
Very important first place to start is to get yourself out of debt. If you can, right? Just get out of debt, because if you have a lot of credit card debt or anything like that, the banks are going to be just charging you 19, 20, 25%
right.
credit card.
Right.
It's just, that's a huge cost that not only through inflation that you're going to be getting taken advantage of, but now the interest that they're charging you. So get out of debt.
So pay off your credit cards.
Pay off the credit cards. Pay off anything that's crazy high interest. Get rid of that.
Get all that free money towards that credit card. Knock that thing down.
Yeah. And just get to have that goal of, oh man, nothing but love, and get out of debt.
That's right. It's Romans.
And then from there is understand that you can either hold a currency or you can hold an asset. And an asset can be a house. It can be, now, if it's my personal residence, it's a liability because it's not making me money. It costs me. I got to pay for repairs. I got to do this, got to do that. But if I have a rental property, that's an asset. It can make me money beyond what the debt is. I can make an additional $1,000 or $500 a month. That's an asset.
Right.
You can buy stocks that are either dividend stocks or anything like that, and that's giving you a return. So just think of assets, and there's many different assets. Gold and silver, it's protecting your purchasing power over long term. So the difference is understanding what an asset is versus a liability or just currency, which is, I would consider a liability because it's eating away. It's a melting ice cube. You're sitting there and it's just melting in your hand as time goes by.
Right.
Versus the asset, because these are melting, these are going up in value.
Increases in value.
So just an understanding of, I need to get more assets. I need to work, not for more money. I need to work to get more assets.
Yes.
And having that thought process and how that goes, find someone who you can trust that is a financial advisor that understands these things, and then go through that and start then to pursue any of these categories are assets. I believe Bitcoin is a phenomenal asset. I think over time, in the long run, it will be shown to be one of the best assets because...
What do you think? You think people should just start putting like $20 in, $50 in?
Yeah, you don't have to sit there and go all in on anything. It's just having 0% is what you don't want. You want something. But yeah, with each paycheck, you can dollar cost average and just say, hey, every paycheck I'm going to put $20 in. Every paycheck I'm going to put $50 in, whatever you want to do. And the key in which we talked about where the losses come into play is when you don't hold your own assets. So Bitcoin, you have the ability, because of how the whole protocol works, you can put it into what they call self-storage, cold storage. And that's ask for a friend, look it up online, just getting something like a cold card or something that it's It's a wallet that stores your private keys.
It's a digital wallet.
It's a digital wallet. It's a physical device that holds your seed key. It's like your PIN code for your bank account.
Physical device that you keep at your house, and or you keep in your safekeeping, and you can actually store your money or your Bitcoin or whatever on that device at home, and it's disconnected from the internet, it's disconnected from everything, so you actually hold it in your house.
Yeah, well, and because the Bitcoin is it's digital, right? So it's on the blockchain. What's on the device is the PIN code.
Yes.
The seed phrase. It's just like your bank. You have a public address, and I can post it online. Hey, send money to my bank account address. Here's my. What I don't want to give you is my PIN code.
Right.
That is my electronic signature that says, I give you permission to move these dollars to here.
Got it.
Well, that is what a seed key is.
Yeah.
But because of SHA-256 encryption through all this whole security, it's like 80 digits long.
Right.
There's no way you're going to, but that's why you're not going to hack it.
Right.
But it's so long you're not going to remember. So these devices hold that number on it for you. And so that's what I'm talking about. So dollar cost average, send it into cold storage and hold it. So, but do it a little bit at a time and learn about it and find someone who can maybe help you. Have a friend that you can send, and you can actually see, I can send money, I can send Bitcoin to you and it settles instantly. And you can see how it even works as a money. But for practical, get Jan Pritzker's book, Inventing Bitcoin. Read that. You could probably read it in a day. It's a pretty short book. Next is the Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean. That goes through the history of money and how Bitcoin fits into that new system of why this is the most trusted system to actually go to because it's decentralized and not controlled by a government. I would recommend those two books if you want to learn more about it. Then just dollar cost average and put something in it. Put something in it, and when you actually have value there, you'll want to then learn about it. If you don't own anything, you won't really have the incentive to go and learn about it unless you just find it interesting. But put $500 in, you'll be like, oh, I have $500. Now I need to like learn about this.
What Ryan means by dollar cost averaging is just putting a little bit of money into an asset over time. And again, the more that you put into there, the more your value grows. You know, people do this with 401ks, right? They take a percentage of their paycheck and that goes right into their 401k, and they leave that into the hands of somebody they don't know, and that supposedly grows money over time. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But you're growing a 401k plan, and they're basically taking your money and putting it in a low risk mutual fund in the stock market. And it just slowly grows over time. And but you're doing that already, and so why not do that with assets that you can hold at home, whether it be a little bit of gold, a little bit of silver, a classic car, real estate. You know, Bitcoin is a great place to start as well because you can come in with so little. You don't need to put $1,000. You need to put $10,000. Now, if you want to, it's up to you, but you don't have to do that. You can literally do $10. You can do $20, and you wake up in 20 years and that's going to grow in value.
Correct. And that's where people need to understand risk. And they think like, oh, I'll put my money in the bank and it's no risk. Well, as you can see, you know, different banks recently have been going under. Risk is there because they don't have your money in the bank if you want to go get it.
Right.
And if everyone wants to do it at the same time. And they are by law allowed to, I think, thanks to the Dodd-Frank Act, if the bank goes under, they're legally allowed to pay you out in bank stock. So they don't even have to give you your dollars back. They can pay you out in bank stock.
Wow.
If they truly default. Most of the time they'll just create more money and give you what they owe you, but now they've defaulted through inflation. But they're allowed to. So that's even a safe view of putting money in the bank. That's risky. Stocks, same thing. If there was ever a cyber attack on these centralized entities that control stocks and the holdings and the brokerages, if I own $100,000 of Apple and I bought it through Charles Schwab is the owner of that Apple stock. I'm the beneficiary because my account's with them. If their stuff got attacked and wiped out, how could I go to Apple? I could go to Apple and say, I actually own $100,000 of Apple stock. They're like, well, we show no record of you. We show that Charles Schwab owns it. So even you can see how risk in different areas.
Right.
So people think like, oh, Bitcoin is too risky. You're not aware of the risk that is even in traditional systems that are there. Doesn't mean that those will come to fruition or reality. but they're still there. So don't, just because you think that it's risky, learn about it. You'll find out that Bitcoin is actually very stable, and when it comes to risk, as not volatility, but just being, you can hold your own funds, you can trust the code, and whatnot. So practical, just buy some, put on a ledger, pay off some debt. If you feel confident in the history of gold, sure, buy some of that. But it's understanding assets versus sitting on a melting ice cube.
It's understanding assets, and that's important. I think kind of full circle with all of the different pictures. It's like if you would have taken $20 and bought one coin, a gold coin, $20, it grows in value. That same $20 that you'd spent grows in value to $2,000. You had taken a piece of silver, it cost you 25 cents to buy that little silver eagle, whatever, and now that thing is worth $22. 25 cents went to, $22. If you would have purchased a house in LA in the 50s.
Think of Manhattan in the 30s. If you would have bought something, an acre of land in Manhattan Island
for like, 50 grand or something.
Yeah. Well, you'd be selling a 1-bedroom condo in a tower for $1 million in Manhattan, what you bought, and you didn't do anything. You just sat on that. It's because the value continued to go up.
Yes.
So they just need to understand that.
Yeah, you purchase. I mean, we've heard endless stories here in LA. It's like, I bought this house for $37,000 back in 1950. This and that. Now the thing's worth $2 million. You're just like, how is that even possible, right? I mean, again, asset. Same thing with Bitcoin. If you would have just taken your measly $200 and put it in and bought one, it would literally be worth $30,000.
And take that house you bought in the 50s. The paint is rotting. The wood is deteriorating. It's not evolving into something better.
Right.
So why is it becoming more valuable? It's not because it's deteriorating.
Yes.
It's because the money is deteriorating faster than it is.
Yes. The value holds, and it's the value, assets are value. And so it is figuring out creative ways to get your money into assets so that they will grow long-term. It's not just about being rich, huh? It's not about being wealthy. What is this whole thing all about?
This is all about being responsible with the assets that the Lord has entrusted with you. And then realizing I need to be a hard worker to get something so that I can in turn share. And if I know that I can also be wise with my money and increase the value there, to also share the local church, to share that those in need, that is really what it is. The goal is to live simply as I comfortably can, still enjoying and knowing that God gives us many blessings.
Yes.
It's not wrong to have nice things and do it.
Enjoy the fruit of your labor.
Absolutely. But don't let that be the focal point.
We're going to Sugarfish.
Right? We're going to Sugarfish. We're enjoying that. Praise the Lord. But if there's a person who's in need, then I'm called to, with my efforts and wisdom, be able to bless them if they're in need. And even if that means at a loss for me. And it really is doing that and understanding that the education of this system needs to be out of love for my neighbor, and I realize that they are being taken advantage of. And that's why I want people to know about it more, and that, hey, there's actually a lifeboat. This current system is unsustainable because of the debt. The government's at $32 trillion in debt right now, and that's not including unfunded liabilities, pensions, or Medicare, Medicaid, all that, Social Security. You include that, you're at like $400 trillion in debt.
Wow.
So take that and realize the system has to go away at some point. Well, there's a new system growing, and I believe that that's Bitcoin that will absorb that over time. Take a portion, put it there, know that that's the case, and that way you can be in a position to bless people as they are being outpaced through inflation.
Yes.
Well, you know what? I haven't been outpaced by inflation. You need help, I can help you. And if Christians are understanding this whole thing, and we are the ones who are prepared, then when people or our neighbors are in need, we can be there to bless them with the value that we have been partaking in. And Christians and the church should be the ones who are the beacon on the hill of being there to help their neighbor.
Yes. That's what I love about you, Ryan. Your vision, your focus is to help as many of the brothers, as many of the sisters, as many of the churches you can to help get their life set up. You're also working to create that wealth to take care of people and to bless people and to be generous. This is the New Testament says, the apostles say very clearly, say to the rich, give your money away. That's what it's there for, to help people. You see your friend in need, you see your neighbor in need. How can you not? Is the love of God in you if you don't go and help them? And so those opportunities will come, and it's wonderful when you are set up, when you are diligent, and God works those things out for his glory, and then you are able to bless and help a lot of people. And that's the motive. That's it. We have a rich, generous king. And if he imparts any of that to us, we gladly get to delegate that out as much as possible.
Yeah. Doesn't matter if you gain all the gold or Bitcoin in the world. If you gain the whole world, you lose your soul.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world but he loses his soul? And we're not into that. We don't care to gain the whole world. We're not losing our soul. We're here to bring God glory with all that we have. Dude, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man.
It's been a fun conversation. You can find Ryan on what platforms, or where they connect with you?
Twitter. I'm trying to remember my handle. It's probably like Ryan_Rinaldo.
Yes,
probably.
Look up Ryan Rinaldo on Twitter, and you can shoot him. You can tweet him out there. Actually, it's an X now, isn't it? It's X.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
It's X. Elon Musk has changed it to X. So you can find Ryan on Twitter. You want to ask him a finance question or about firefighting or about theology, he's always ready to answer and help. Love you, dude. Thanks for coming on,
man. Thanks.